don't know if I will. I don't know if I'll ever pay for StreamYards, and since I don't blame StreamYards for it being down the other, like, was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
I think that was a
Google's
Google
fault.
problem. Yeah, that was insane. I'm going to start distancing myself from Google because that was like, oh yes, it's very convenient, but now you're locked out of everything if our Google Cloud whatever bullshit is off. Oh, whoops. I cursed in the first whatever minutes. Anyway, hello, everybody. Welcome to Mentor Speaking. It's Alex and Alex here.
Hello there.
And today we're going to talk about the Nothing Ever Happens and Iran. Oh, it's a little greyhound. Yeah, this has been an interesting last couple of weeks. I ham a lot of stuff up on X, but it's just been kind of funny watching the crash outs of our griftosphere.
A lot of not going to make it going around.
Yeah, like what? It's like have a sober opinion, and like the sky is falling stuff, and that's why I kind of realized earlier today that this Nothing Ever Happens stuff is actually a coping mechanism to help just keep their mind calm. It's actually more about, and usually they're right? Like someone once described to me that a cynic is a really good way for someone of mid-level IQ to be right most of the time, because most of the time stuff doesn't work out very well. Like, so if you're cynical, you just guess everything's not going to work, and you look right 90% of the time, and you almost look prophetic. You can just make a career out of being completely negative. Name could be George Carlin, and so I find the cynics to be of no value. They're like false value, and what's your thoughts on that? You probably know more about cynics than I do.
Oh man,
I have a hatred of Diogenes.
There's a problem with cynicism, which is, you can loudly predict that things are going to go wrong or go bad, but you have the attitude puts you in a position. Oh, excuse me.
Sure.
Where you are situated psychologically to have very little impact on things going right or ever getting better.
Yeah. You want to pretend to be a Cassandra, right? To be the one who always says the truth, but no one wants to listen to. But really, just no one wants to listen to you. And people who make stuff happen are very optimistic. Like, you have to be optimistic to create a startup company. Like, you have to be very optimistic to create a new technology and then bet your life savings on it. You
have to, just looking at the success rate, you have to be borderline delusional.
You have to be crazy. That's why most of the rich people are completely crazy.
Yeah.
But they're crazy in a way that's productive. Like they're crazy in the way that they will bet it all on America, or they'll bet it all on whatever they love. You actually kind of want, I can make an argument that love is crazy. Like,
oh yeah,
this guy goes all in on you. It's like all the chips are in. We're going, and he's just absolutely over the moon for you. It's like, that's crazy behavior. Rationalism is the death of romanticism, and I hate it. I don't like rational supremacists. And the cynicists are now being destroyed. Well, I don't even know if I'd call these people cynicists. They're just, it's going to be years, I think, before we find out what's going on with the right-wing sort of griftosphere. I hate to call it griftosphere, but I'm not, the commentariat, I don't know, I called them that. The commenters, right? The commentators, the influencers, what the heck's going on? Because they're caught between a rock and a hard place. If they take time to make a sober evaluation of what's going on, they risk not being the first one to say something. So, and you'll see this. Yeah. Sorry, good.
Well, there's the era of the hot take is really bad for clear-eyed analysis, because there's immense pressure to speculate and predict wildly, and be right on the basis of very little. It's funny. I think you hit the nail on the head by calling Nothing Ever Happens a coping mechanism. It's almost closer to like a form of psychological prophylaxis, which is not that you necessarily, but the trend is right there. It's it's protecting yourself from getting caught up in wild shit and being taken up by flights of fancy. What we're seeing, I think, right now is partially an era of, social media, instant gratification, etc., leading to leading to people expecting history and events to unfold significantly faster than they actually do.
Yeah.
Like, Israel shoots, makes attacks on Iran, Trump bombs Iran, and we want the entire war to unfold yesterday. You saw a similar thing with war in Ukraine. Like, people expect a sort of instantaneous resolution or, instantaneous emergence of consequences. It's like, we're over 3 years on now, and it's still slow dripping.
Mm-hmm.
But people's emotional reward schedules are not synced up to the pace that reality actually moves at.
That's a really profound statement, I think. Is that there's a disconnect between the speed of reality versus the speed of desire, and that would explain all the whining. Yeah, it's just pure. That's so frustrating to me. Is it just so much whining of we need stuff to happen, and I'm like, give it a minute. Like the Epstein Files is actually a really good example, too, where it's like it takes a long time to put together an investigation on something fairly simple, right? I think if people don't realize how long Rudy Giuliani was putting together files for just basic mobsters, right? And who all had podcasts now, but it took years. It takes years to gather evidence. It takes years to make it airtight, because the last thing you want to do is go after a criminal racket and come in half cocked and let them slip, because if it's a house of cards, right? And if you let these people, so anyways, so I'm like, we'll just wait and see. Like, there's a lot of nothing ever happens. There's not a whole lot of like, let's just wait and see in the commentary sphere, which is telling me which is, by the way, mental illness. I think these influencers are actually becoming mentally ill. Oh, kitty cat just can't stay away from it.
Yeah, she's a little vampire. She comes in for suckles whenever I'm stationary for long enough.
Hey, John.
Hey, John B. So there's it's interesting. Nassim Nicholas Taleb, like his Twitter persona and his book persona are almost completely different people.
Yes.
But this is sort of the world that Black Swan, Skin in the Game, Anti-Fragile is all about. Because you have these people like prevaricating and making predictions, and like, okay, events take time. If you actually think you have an insight into something, like, quietly place bets, get skin in the game,
right?
Because if you are making predictions and your predictions have no cost to you, like, what if you're wrong, what good are they? Honestly, no one should take your advice. But if you're onto something, like, why not just quietly make a dime while other people make noise?
That would be interesting. Andrew Tate has the whole thing, like, what's the color of your Lambo? Like, if you're so rich, if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? It's like, if you're so confident, like, let's see the poly market. Let me see your poly market receipt. How bought in are you?
That might almost be like, the standard is, just end of month. Here's my poly market portfolio. Let's see how this turned out.
That's awesome. I mean, that would actually bring some virtue to the gambling. Because it shouldn't be gambling, right? It's a prediction. They know all this stuff. I would never do that.
And also, nobody remembers your predictions when you're wrong.
Exactly.
Like, you can be wrong as long as you want at no cost, and like, as long as you have a hit every once in a while, you'll get social cachet. But nobody keeps in mind your prediction record.
I'm a big fan of giving people what they deserve, and I find that the audience of X just deserves the grift. So it's crossed my mind as if I should have the grift element, because I noticed that like years ago, is I could just shotgun predictions, and then I'll just retweet myself and delete all the ones that didn't turn out right, and be like, "See, I called it. I could have two different ones. Like Iran's going to bomb us. Iran's not going to bomb us. I'll just delete the one. You can't do that if you're a big account. But what you could do is use weasel words. Like Iran may bomb, Iran may do this and it may not do this. Have to do two different tweets. Then you just promote the one where you say, and you can always just weasel out and say, well, I said it's a possibility, But that's where the money comes in. Like, there's no weasel words when there's actual dollar amounts on it. And I think a lot of people would have lost a lot of money. And a lot of commentators are sitting with egg on their face. And egg is being generous. It's a lot worse than egg on their face.
Yeah. So let's move through the phenomenon that happened.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple of different, fallout consequences. One is the no skin in the game predicting.
Yep.
Another is like people's minds being driven haywire by, a hyper novel environment.
Yes.
Another is a lot of people just out themselves as like, very, very mercenary or like, coattail hangers, willing to throw people under the bus at the smallest thing. And then there's the distinction between like nothing ever happens, trust the plan, and like wait and see hot takes are the death of insight.
Yeah, yes.
So why don't you carry us through the sequence of events that actually happened and then talk to us about the phenomenon you've observed in the like X right-wing sphere? Because I think it's going to be illustrative to go through, the what happened to see the nothing happen.
Right. Exactly. And the I'm going to leave out all of the Palestine stuff. I'm going to consider it a separate issue, even though they're connected, because that gets our time horizon to be very recent. Because this was a 12-day war. It's only last 2 weeks. Feels like 2 years. It started with the strike from Israel, right? And Netanyahu was saying that America is going to join. Someone in Israel said America is planning on joining us. So you got the misinformation, right? That has been a prevalent theme, is that you'll have a state actor of a foreign state saying that America said something and people just believe it or they just run with it because it fits their narrative. I don't feel like it's a very organic thing. I feel like there's a lot of inorganic activity actually on X. We'll get into that in a minute. All right. So there's the strike. Jeez, there's the missile back and forth, right? I believe I saw the chart where it's like Iran fired 50 missiles the first day, 30 missiles the next day, 20, a dwindling number of missiles every day until eventually like the final salvo was right before the ceasefire. I want to say that was just a few. I don't remember the numbers. I want to say it was like 5, but I could be wrong. If anyone's here in the future and I'm totally wrong, just put it in the comments. Appreciate it. It was and the Iron Dome was defending most of it. I got some pretty good videos of what it looks like to be on the business end of a hypersonic missile, which I've never seen before. That's pretty cool. George Lucas's sound design turned out was pretty well on point. Amazing.
Oh yeah. It's like the Slave One mines going off.
And George Lucas. Anyways, which of course some conspiracy theory could say this was all orchestrated. Like, look, the sounds are just like George Lucas. This is a THX bullshit. Which would be
also consider that in that time period you had you had people working at ILM with firsthand experience of World War II, Korean War, Vietnam War, et cetera. Like there was the expertise. It's like the Christopher Lee, like that's not the sound a man makes when he's stabbed.
Yeah.
You had people that knew what this stuff sounded like and how to properly get it.
That's funny. That's true. Yeah, but all right. So what happened after that? So we had the missile exchange. America is implicated of are we going to join or not? Immediately, people jumped into regime change war. It was immediate mimetic gear shift. Right? You could just hear the clutch moving and just like Iraq war. It's like this is going to be just like Iraq. And I lost so much respect for so many veterans who are on Twitter. And I'm like, you guys are really fast to call it. I know, like, not to boomers. Not everything is World War II. Okay. or Vietnam. Not everything, like, depends on which boomer you want to talk to. If it's an old school, like, conservative boomer, everything's World War II. If it's like a hippy dippy, like, come on, man, it's good. Everything's Vietnam. And for Gen X, everything's the global war on terror. Gen X millennials. And the thing is, everything's different. I find it funny that a little bit of knowledge of history can be a very dangerous thing, because everything will just look like that one thing, like you're a toolbox with only hammers.
Yeah. This is we have to fight the perpetual rise of Nazism, etc.
Yeah, and no one gave. And by the way, Trump hasn't said anything for a while. Like, there was zero word actually from Trump, and I think he did that strategically just to see how things would shake out. Because I don't think he was wait and see. I don't know what he was thinking, obviously, but he might have been just waiting and seeing.
Well, this might be like a bit of an early digression, but I saw a post from Stelios a few days ago talking about people who are like, oh yeah, our posts change the outcomes, and I just responded with the Plato's Cave shadow on the wall kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, your input here as an observer is like not guaranteed to actually have any leverage. And there's a whole like posters and control thing, but like the reality is you're not the person in the room. You're not making the decisions. People may have, convergent decision making. They may actually, take some of what you're saying is useful, but like, do you actually have your hands on the levers of power? No, not really.
No.
And there's just so much foolishness in this instant gratification world.
Yeah.
That leads people to tie themselves in knots. And jumping into the, like, Stelios is low-key the most based Lotus Eater in certain contexts.
He's fairly grounded and consistent. The other Lotus Eaters, well, I'm not even going to go into that, but a lot of other commentators went right into the president's thinking and right into historical this, historical that. I was like, we're asking, we have like this much trajectory on the asteroid. We can't really predict where it's going to go. We have almost we have a snapshot. We have zero trajectory, actually. We just know where it's positioned. We don't know its velocity. Yeah. We don't know where this thing's going. The whole thing was 12 days long. That's barely enough time to know know anything about anything.
Or even know what like physically transpired. And the crazy thing is, like, okay, you would have thought after more than a decade that people would have realized that when Trump posts publicly or says something publicly, he's often essentially engaged in political market manipulation. So it's like, like, why do you think you can derive his thinking from this when he's deliberately manipulating responses? Like, it's foolish to start now.
He does leverage. He leverages the big ask. Like, his main strategy for deal making is he will start with misinformation about what he finds acceptable. He'll do a big ask, right? That's exactly what that is. And I found it kind of funny because I remember Jonathan Haidt's work on the 6 moral pillars. Let's see if I can name them all off the top of my head, right? But the first one I'm going to name is loyalty, right? So conservatives are supposed to be famous for having all of the 6 pillars, right? It's like care, justice, I think tradition, like respect for tradition, loyalty, freedom, that sort of stuff, right? There's one I'm forgetting, and I probably misnamed a couple of them, but that's a general idea. We got 6 moral pillars. Loyalty really went to bed for a lot of these people and revealed that they have zero loyalty to Trump and his thinking, because they immediately assumed he's going to do the worst thing possible. Probably because, in my opinion, it was to get clicks. I think it was clout chasing, because they're catastrophizing based on zero information. So we found out not only who doesn't actually have any sort of loyalty for Trump. Like, the guy took a bullet. Like, whether you like him or not, you got to respect that at least. Like, he seems to have convictions, and he hasn't done anything extremely stupid, believe it or not, that would be on this level. He's also handled similar situations, like for Syria and Soleimani. Like, he's obviously not a forever war guy, but everyone assumed he'd be a forever war guy. like that minute. Like Alex Jones is posting a George W. Bush face mashup with Trump. And that stuff is going to haunt these guys for a long time. I think these influencers have done irreparable damage to their reputations, I think.
Right. And why would he go like more war hawkish now that like John Bolton isn't in the cabinet? You know, like he doesn't have a lot of Holden blood feasts around him,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So
just a second to say, like, you know, on the breakdown of loyalty, you know, one of the things that there are certain markets where it's very easy to like collect bona fides cheaply, you know, to be predicting cheaply and to be, you know, on the winning side very cheaply. I think the 2025 election was one of those where you could make a lot of hay by just jumping on the bandwagon.
Yes.
You know, and there's going to be a shaking out period, like, you know, where people will see, you know, opportunity, like, you know, to get a cheap stab in the back or something, not necessarily stab in the back, because again, these people aren't like really influencing all that much.
Yeah.
But to take a swipe at somebody cheaply.
Yeah.
You know, and there are some characters who have come out of this like, okay, you know, I started following you because, you know, you were saying all the things I like to hear in the cheap times, but now you're in the expensive times, and I see how cheap it was to you. Like essentially that you don't value your backing. There are some characters like Mike Cernovich who I find it very valuable to follow. But I don't trust anything he says as like, you know, being a strongly held position. Like, you know, he's very, very mercenary. And if you accept everything he says as very, very mercenary, it's like, you know, I'm not going to get bent out of shape by this, but you know, you saw a lot more people like showing like,
oh yeah,
hey, I am completely mercenary, absolutely out for myself. And I'm like, not even that Trump's absolutely in the right or whatever. You know, it's much more about the characters of people who showed themselves to be either mercenary or so caught up in like, you know, internet instant gratification that like they have no ability to soberly analyze anything.
Correct. Yeah, and that's why I said that you could profess belief all you want, but until you actually have a trial, like some choice to make, we don't actually know what you believe, which is why I find it fascinating to go over the revealed preferences of America, because no one actually knows America until you sit and look at the actual decisions made. And America is not anything that anyone likes. Everyone has their own version in their own head of what they want America to be, and they're all wrong, because America will absolutely is a machine. This is what I'm starting to find out, right? It's like a giant Ouija board, and everyone's got a hand on it, and it's going to land on some things that you don't want it to say, but it's going to say them. These influencers think that they have some control, and you also have these influencers that are just trying to predict what the Ouija board's going to do next, right? And they're really the only sane answer is wait and see, check it out later, right? But these guys need to make money on X, which I can't imagine a more miserable or mentally degrading profession than professional social media poster, right? I can't think of a single one, because your mind is going to go insane. So people started playing to the crowd that they thought was there, and the voters revealed like 80% plus support for the strikes. Like, it's just like America's just like, all right, sure. And these guys all in their own Twitter bubble completely deluded themselves into these different positions. And the problem is they also can't apologize or backtrack, right? The only person I actually saw that apologized and said, hey, I was wrong, was friggin' Rob Schneider. That's it. Dave Smith is off the reservation. Candace Owens is off the reservation. These mercenaries are all outed. I don't think they're going to ever live this down, because you only need to make one mistake on the internet and never own it, and that will just be your legacy forever because it'll always be in your comment section.
An alternative viewpoint is you can make a bunch of mistakes and not own them and keep predicting and just count on short memory span, which I think is what a lot of people do.
A lot of especially on the left. A lot of leftist guys will do that. Yeah.
I was actually really happy to hear Firas eat crow on the podcast of the Lotus Eaters, and just like, yeah, I was a panicking.
Yeah, you were panicking. That's right. Damn panicking. Right. But it's so funny.
So there's a counter position, which is if you can cultivate a reputation for sincerity and honesty,
yes,
by admitting it when you got it wrong, and then backing it up by like correcting. Like, this is actually how you preserve your reputation without losing authenticity. And a lot of people are willing to say like, F on authenticity. It doesn't matter that much.
Exactly. If they're trying to play the game, right? Jahanvi actually makes a pretty good point. Like, it's hard to deal with the online rhetoric and comments. A lot of these people do not have the neurological fortitude to deal with so many people disagreeing with them. Right? You actually have to, if you want to be an authentic person online, you have to have an agreeability of almost zero, I think. You have to want to make no one happy. Because that's the only person who can tell the truth. I have scored a 0 on my agreeability when I took the Jordan Peterson personality assessment. So in a crowd of 1,000 people, I'm going to be the most disagreeable person in there. My wife likes to remind me of that. And I like to remind her that
I never did the ocean thing, but like for me, the pandemic was a really big like personal challenge. Like, no, you have to be willing, like really committed to and love the truth to not give in to social pressures and like the social pressure stuff. The people who try and put that on you, fuck them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
It's a bit trite to cite the title of the book, but it is a real thing. Like, you got to have the courage to be disliked.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons why I don't think I could describe myself as a sexist, but not a misogynist. I'm sexist because I just think that sexes are different. Women are not doing well right now in social media or politics or anything. They're getting destroyed because people will threaten your family. People will do. You almost have to be a crazy levels of disagreeable to stand on 10 toes and just be there to argue, because there's a lot of arguments that need to be had. There's not a lot of agreements that need to be had, because the ideas are formed. We're in a sorting period right now. We're in a filtering period, right? There's not going to be a new book on conservatism that's going to break ground. I think, like, there's not going to be a lot of new philosophy about how to do things. There's going to be reminders of ideas that are already there, like sifting through, but that's part of the filter. It's like, okay, I'm going to present it this way. Like, to me, the thing that would actually change society for the better would be a total reorganization or a deorganization of the family back to something that actually works. Because right now it's our families are tuned for factory work. That's a different topic. I apologize. There's not a lot of need to create original ideas of things. There is a need of having sobriety. Right. And we have this big filter going through, and just the crash outs are amazing. And you're having people going, I think, through actual mental issues. Like, people are going to see so many right-wing grifters having total downward spirals because of this.
Well, I mean, you see the same on the left, like we're just not necessarily in those spaces nonstop. Man, there's I know there was a period where it was fashionable to describe oneself, as like, on the right wing or whatever, as a reactionary. Right. But like, reaction is not the position you ever want to be in.
No, it's not.
Because it means someone else owns your cognition entirely.
Yes.
Like, when you are in a position of being reactive, you cede total agency to someone else.
Same thing as if your philosophy is, and in reaction can be redescribed as just being anti anything, which is actually, as I've said before, I'm obsessed with the English. they are trying to be anti-American. Like our identity is not American. Same thing with the Canadians. And then look where it's getting them. Like it actually is a complete destruction of your identity to make yourself not that. So the best thing to do in this world is to grab the thing that you believe in, jump into the stream of Darwinianism for ideas, right? We're going to let things filter through, and you hold on to that idea and you hope that it keeps you afloat. Because if you change your ideas, you're going to lose a lot of rhetorical value. Like some of the rhetorical value of Trump is that he's always believed this exact same stuff for decades and decades. The other, you have to let it play out. Like if Matt Walsh decided tomorrow that he is okay with abortion, he would be gone. Right. So if you try to gamify it, it's almost impossible to actually win this game.
Right. Wait, so I want to not necessarily to get pedantic, but I do want to hone in on you want to dive in, but you don't want to necessarily dive in with pre-commitments to specific ideas. What you want to dive in with is an orientation. One of the simplest ones is dive in with an orientation or that is a prior commitment to high truth value, high correspondence to reality.
Right. Yeah.
Another is, I'm trying to think of how to say this without falling into cliches.
Cliches are okay.
With a commitment that those around you in sort of extending circles of influence do well and are healthy.
Yeah.
And, what coming in with an orientation does is it actually lets you move ideas in pursuance of this orientation or principle, which is not necessarily a specific, idealistic pre-commitment, and lets you maintain authenticity while trying on modes of thinking or sets of ideas that may fit better.
Right.
And I'm a big believer in multimodal thinking. There are a lot of modalities of thought that are not reconcilable on the axiomatic level. For example, a theological mindset is not axiomatically reconcilable with an economic mindset. Right. You will have to move domains of thinking and exchange sets of ideas around a unifying principle. In this case, a disposition.
Yeah. It's been working out pretty well, actually. So, because Trump's only orientation seems to be make America great again.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like whatever's good for America, he's all for it. Which is, I think it's hard to argue with that. It is anti-universalist.
And it fully admits that circumstances change the actions that you're going to take. Yeah.
I mean, the revealed preference of America right now is that we're kind of okay with limited bombing campaigns. To great effect. In fact, we love it. Which in fact is awesome. The more days go by, the more awesome it becomes as we see the fallout from it. No pun intended on that. But the survival in this commentary sphere, I think you need an orientation, you need a methodology, which is, I mean, I'm not going to tell Stelios what he should do, but I think that if he ever went independent, he would do very well, because this the other philosopher that I know of is I think is Warren Smith. He was a university professor who got in a conversation about J.K. Rowling in the classroom. All he has is the YouTube channel where he takes clips and reveals what the thinking is behind it. Like there might actually be a space for people who are good at keeping a level head and good at philosophizing to just reiterate in simpler terms. Or reveal what someone's thinking is. Yeah. Hey, Odin, the German Shepherd. Today we're talking about Iran, but we're mostly talking about the influencers' reaction to it, because I don't know who got bombed out harder. Because some people absolutely got bunker busted. They got their bunkers busted on this one because they're showing out. Back on the MAGA thing, you kind of see that one of the main attacks against Dave Smith right now is that he's not holding America's interests as the highest interest, which means he's now antithetical to MAGA, which means he's now putting himself into enemy territory. which is
Right. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. It's a fair weather friend. I mean, not even friend. I'm trying to think back to rules for radicals, like what you would even call Dave Smith.
Oh, he's an enemy. He's an enemy.
Yeah.
Straight up.
No, yeah. But in the cheap times, I think there was a category error
yes.
of admitting
Unproven.
him as friend.
Yeah, it was unproven. So he's in the middle, right? Well, there is, if I remember correctly, this is like maybe a couple of years ago. If I remember correctly, there's a middle category, and I actually argue that's the worst category to be in because you're unknown. There's people who are straight up allies, which you will defend, right? If someone has a picture of Hegseth like doing Jello shots, and it looks like it happened yesterday, or like happened at a New Year's party when he's supposed to be sober, that's when you'd go and defend him. Like you'd go and say like, this might be doctored, this might be this. Obviously, you don't go all in a way that might be damaging to yourself, but you are putting yourself on the line and putting yourself in the limelight. Someone you step up for. That's an ally, right? A friend is someone who will feature you, right? So Konstantin Kisin is a friend of the right. He is not necessary. He might be friend to neutral territory. Neutral, I think. So the reason why I don't like neutrality is because it's a lie. No one's ever neutral, especially in these times right now. There's no neutrality. Everyone has a position on something. So the modality of your thinking is actually changes who's on your side. And that's an absolute paradigm breaker for people who are very simple-minded.
Right. I mean, there's a host of Zap Brannigan memes that go here, like what makes a man's heart turn neutral.
Yes.
There's the conversation we just had, it should have been immediately obvious, and it kind of was to me, that like, okay, Dave Smith's on the Trump bandwagon back election time, but he's just not trustworthy, because he's diving in with a specific set of axiomatic pre-commitments rather than a broad dispositional pre-commitment.
I see what you're saying.
Which is, he's coming in as a hard in the paint libertarian pre-committed, like as far as adjusting belief or valuing like correspondence to reality, that's not trustworthy. And like, I draw a distinction between somebody like Dave Smith and Tom Woods. And like, I know they're friends and stuff, but like Woods moves around a lot, and seems to be mostly committed to just the flourishing of his community. And, he's still very much on like libertarian ANCAP ideas and stuff, but he seems to be very pragmatic about it. Like, a lot of ideas are sacrificable. If ideas are not sacrificable, like, you start to run into problems.
Yeah, exactly. There's the only idea that seems to unify the right at the moment right now, though, is like whatever's good for America is what we're going to do. Anyone who doesn't operate in that space, I think, is just running on a different operating system. And you have to start sacrificing ideas if it's good for America. Like this one, I've seen this argument online. I'm going to take my knob is default dialed to 8 or 9 or 10 when I hear this question. I'm going to dial it down to 3 and say that Iran is Pakistan and India either already have nukes and have not openly attacked us. So they are not a hot enemy. If we could just wave a magic wand right now and take away Pakistan, if we could wave the magic wand right now, we take away everyone's nukes. Take away France's nukes. But we don't live with magic wands, right? And unfortunately for the libertarians, they'll never understand that because they think that the world is about magic. There's a meme that went around for a while where it's like this is what it's like to talk to a leftist. You say like, leftists will say, I think everyone should have XYZ. And you say like, well, we can't give everyone XYZ because of this issue, right? We'd have to do this to give everyone XYZ. And they're saying like, well, you're a bad person. You don't want them to have XYZ. It's like, no, I'm trying to explain that there's steps to get there and how we can't have that just yet. And you're like, and they just stand there like this, like, well, I believe people should have XYZ. I'm a good person. You get the same thing with libertarians. It's like, how are you going to get to your utopia? How are you going to get to the utopia with nuclear disarmament? I actually find Israel to be a pretty good ally because they've helped us nuclear disarm Iran. Like, it'd be kind of nice to have a bulldog that helps us disarm people. I I don't know how close they were. I don't know if we'll ever know how close they were. It seems like they had the whole shopping list if they wanted to build a nuke. It's what it's described to me, right? Which is funny because Dave Smith actually ate a bunch of crap because they showed the full. He was citing Tulsi Gabbard's testimony, and then someone just played the full thing outside of the 10-second clip. And like that is actually a good test if someone's genuine, because if they're genuinely interested in the subject, they will watch the 3-hour C-SPAN nonsense and they will become the originator of the clips. If they're consuming clips, that's a red flag. They don't actually care.
Yeah, that's something for me where like
you're right.
It was a big wake up call, just personally on the Covington kids stuff, like, you know, because I think I was in my late 20s at the time, and it was a very serious wake up call to see how it was portrayed, experience the emotions in me, and then go like, okay, you know, let's go dig up the whole thing and watch the whole thing. And, you know, it completely altered my perspective over what I was given. You know, and you have to be willing to do that if you're willing to, you know, if you want to take a stand on something. Like, you owe it to yourself to try your best to comprehend the situation in its entirety and like comprehend the back end mechanics and what happened insofar as it's ascertainable. You know, one of the troubles is like, the first casualty in war is the truth. So, you know, I immediately get very skeptical around like any armed conflict stuff. Like, well, it's highly probable that I will have limited to no ability to, you know, to figure out what's going on here. You know, but like you do owe it to yourself to watch the whole thing. Or if, you know, like, you have to be honest and say, this doesn't matter enough for me to go and watch the whole thing.
Correct.
Well, I'm just going to let it pass me by. And it's okay to not need to be in everything.
Exactly.
You become in fact, if you're pursuing like a very important commitment, like, you know, like broadly America first, what's good for America, or, you know, that I want my community to be thriving, you owe it to your community to disregard many things that are not on mission.
Yes. And the reason why we have influencers in the first place is so they can go through this stuff, and then we can trust in good faith that they are honestly and self-reflectively going through this. Like if Trump did something really bad, how many people would be, let's say he just did something objectively stupid and bad, and that was not good for America, right? Like bringing us into a forever war. So we're going to do the hypothetical that everyone's saying. Anybody would be ride or die for Trump at that point. I'd be like, well, you're just no longer credible. I don't ever want to hear your opinion on anything. I don't want to hear your opinion on what cartoons are good, honestly, because you cannot separate. It's like a doctor who prescribes you a pill because they like the pill rather than this pill is the right thing to do. It's really bad. It's really bad. And anybody who does that is just, you cannot trust them at all. Little lies are actually huge. Little lies can be huge. And little things that it's okay to be embarrassed, right? You say the great thing about the right is you can actually say you're sorry, and they will sit and they'll argue for a while, but your audience will more or less stick around. There won't be like further attacks, right? They're actually
right.
That's
right. There's actually a pathway to redemption open. And you're right about little lies, you know, liar in one thing, liar in all things.
Yes.
There's also a categorical difference between getting it wrong and lying. And when you get it wrong, you know, you need to apologize and make good. You know, if you're apologizing to people who will never accept your apology, fuck them. You know, just like reform in your own way and demonstrate contrition to those, you know, to those who actually like care. The people with no pathway to redemption, like those guys are lost until they apologize, and you simply don't treat with them until they apologize.
100%. That puts them in enemy territory. Not even unfriendly. Like, it's okay it's actually that's why I say like being neutral is worse than being unfriendly, because neutral has an agenda. They're just not telling you that. Unfriendly, you know where they stand, which is why right-wingers can go on to unfriendly shows As long as as soon as they start like doctoring clips and lying, right? It's actually the adherence to the truth, which is what distinguishes someone from being simply unfriendly to being an enemy. Which is why the right actually promotes unfriendly people all the time. Like, how many times have you seen right wingers talk about Jimmy Dore? Jimmy Dore hates us, probably. Jimmy Dore probably thinks we're scum. He literally spat on Alex Jones, which, all right, your mileage may vary. Depends on how many more Bush Donald Trump mashup pictures Alex is going to put on Twitter, depending on who's going to spit on him today. But
with some exceptions, he seems to be like, he's unfriendly, but you can at least trust him as far as you can throw him. Yeah,
he's adhering to truth. So the only operating system that actually is universal to everyone is the truth, right? And anyone who thinks the truth is subjective is not someone who's adhering to the truth. That's usually a tell. Now, perception, like how we see the truth, that is subjective, right? But anyone who thinks that there isn't an objective truth behind all that, behind all of the fog of war we're going to have, like, I can look at my enemy. I could look at even an enemy, right? Or let's just say unfriendly for my Rules of Radicals video. Like, I could look at an unfriendly person. As long as I believe there's in good faith, if he saw what I saw, he would also, he wouldn't deny it. Then I could work with him. Right. So now the discussion can actually work.
Right. And there's difference about like quibbling around interpretation or like the actual mechanisms that result in turns of events and stuff like that. And, just on the interpretive layer, people can have, different validation mechanisms for truth, which may be lossy or maybe, misguided or relying on metaphysical pre-commitments rather than, strict reality testing. I mean, almost everyone has these small, low-cost failure points in their modes of thinking. Not almost everyone does. Your thinking is lossy, and you have to be comfortable with that. And you also have to root out, where your pre-commitments lock you into validating truth in bizarre ways.
Yeah.
In my thinking, I would admit to being very much a postmodernist in that, like, I'm very skeptical of claims of absolute knowledge.
And
it's not reality. Right. Insofar as, accepting general philosophical skepticism about, the untrustworthiness of reality, which is like honestly a low yield conversation to have. I'm much more skeptical about people's basis for certainty, and people are far more often not interested in knowing, but interested in, validating that they know. They're much more committed to that they know things than knowing things. So, I'm a bit postmodern when it comes to epistemology in that way. And, like, all knowledge is contingent, bro.
Yeah.
Kuhn's structure and nature of scientific revolutions, like, is absolutely cross domain.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Odin. By the way, Odin, I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually just waiting for your comments to become pertinent and me to segue into them because some of them are pretty good. I don't get into the Israel stuff too much because everyone's griping about it, and I just don't want to catch that heat, and I just don't care that much. Although I will say with this comment, it's funny. Which one do you have? There's one I wanted to mention. Anyways, and someone was saying like, okay, what makes Israel our ally except for what they just did for us? It's like what someone just did for us is the only thing that matters. America is an absolute mercenary nation in terms of its, like, we do what's good for us. We would never get into World War I on the same basis the Europeans did of like, I must honor this 1,000-year treaty. We're like, what treaty? I don't know. I'm not that guy. I didn't sign that. Screw you. What am I getting? What's in it for me? America is a landlord.
Planet Earth. We also like part of American distrustfulness may actually go back to Wilson. He ran on keeping us out of war.
Yeah.
Woodrow Wilson was a pants on head, crazy as shit ideologue. If you didn't see that coming, I know there's a whole thing about we're looking back at history without the fog of war, but like, if you didn't see that coming, like, I don't know how to help you.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another comment Odin actually had that I want to talk about. It's like, how many times do we accept an apology if the news media getting it wrong? You accept the apology always if you're a Christian, but that doesn't mean they're still in your church. That doesn't mean you still have to listen to them. Like if I had a priest tell me something like misquote scripture, if I had a pastor who misquoted scripture, I'd be like, you lose your job right now and you'll never have it again. I can't trust you. Like being untrustworthy is now part of your core character. Like apologizing, and people think that apologizing and forgiveness just like sucks the sin out of people. It's like, no, now we just know who you are. Like, I'm not gonna, just because you apologize for being an alcoholic who like drop kicked a 4-year-old at a family party, I'm not gonna let you drink again. Like, so that's the problem that with like Tucker Carlson and stuff. He's probably never going to get another interview with anyone of any importance on the right. Because of the gotcha interview stuff. Like any politician of any standing, you might get people who are trying to rise up and who are already friendly with Tucker Carlson. But now, nobody. I guess let me put it this way: anyone who thinks that Tucker might disagree with them, they're probably not going to want to go to the show anymore. And I
talk to me about the Tucker thing, because
let's talk about that.
Just as a quick aside, I've started to cultivate a when I call it terminal current thing boredom.
Yes.
When I log into X or like have a political conversation with somebody or something, and it's something in the news cycle that like I know I have no impact on. Yeah. I know the event, like the consequences are going to take time to emerge, et cetera. And I see it going on for like a couple of days. I'm like,
oh, did we lose Alex? Oh, there he is. He's come back. Cosmo's internet is a little bit odd. Let's see if you're still on, man. Oh, dang it. I really want to hear his point too. He'll be back. He'll be back. He is frozen out. I'm going to send him a message on X. All right. You are frozen out, my friend. You are frozen. Frozen like some peas. FYI. You are frozen. Thank you for your attention on this matter. Anyways, all right. Well, while he's fixing himself, I'm going to take him off the stage here. While he's fixing himself, I'm going to just answer his question though about what happened with the Tucker Carlson thing. For anybody who doesn't know, Tucker Carlson did an interview. I'm going to admit I didn't watch the full thing. The problem with long form content is that you have to watch the whole damn thing, and I will do clips. The reason why I think people, and those people would include myself at the moment, are critical of the Tucker Carlson interview was because it seemed to have a lot of like mainstream media like gotchas. And you got to remember that Tucker Carlson is a mainstream media guy who just lost his job, right? For one reason or another. And he was hardballing. I don't like Ted Cruz, by the way. I think Ted Cruz is kind of sleazy. I actually don't like the Israel first thing. Like, again, MAGA is America is first, right? So when I'm thinking about Israel, I'm thinking, what is Israel doing for us? Okay, what are you doing for us? And if you're doing something against us, we're going to bomb the shit out of you, right? I think that's the implied threat with the F-bomb that Trump dropped. Like, obviously, forcing them to adhere. Here we go. Forcing them to adhere to the ceasefire. Oh, let me just move this over here. There we go. Yeah, forcing Israel to adhere to the ceasefire. It means that America is first, Israel is not first. The guys who have this weird religious belief that Israel should be supported by America, I don't buy it. I have my own schizo ideas of America. I think my schizo idea of America is that it is the chosen land. Like it is we're the chosen people. Yeah. And I don't like the games. Here's the main thing about the Tucker Carlson thing is it felt like the interview was more about games and getting the sound bites and doing the bullshit, right? So even if it wasn't bullshit, it was bullshit adjacent and it wore bullshit colors and it dressed like bullshit, right? It might have been truth dressed like bullshit. I'm not taking a chance on that. As I said before, speak simply. All of my favorite follows on social media. Let me tell you this. My favorite follows on social media, and I include YouTube on that, is Nerdrotic and Joe Rogan. And Joe Rogan in small doses, right? Because he appears to actually be honest. There's a certain amount of being not so curated actually lends itself to being honest. There's a reason why I don't make this show any more organized. There's a reason why Gary from Nerdrotic doesn't make the show more organized. Is that they, Cosmo, while you figure your stuff out, I'm going to just remove you. Sorry about that. I thought you might be ready. That's good. It's all good. It's all good. The hyper curated interview style, I think, is dead. right? Yeah, like the gotchas are kind of dumb. Like I don't, and the problem is I think Tucker lost that one in the long term because now he's a meme. Like Ted Cruz isn't a meme in the way Tucker now is a meme, because now people could just post a picture of Tucker and say, like, do you know the exact population? Don't you know the population of Japan before you drop the bombs? Don't you know anything? That's the thing that got me, was he said, don't you know anything about Iran? And like Ted was flustered, right? I would have handled that better. But Ted's answer of like, what's the ethnic population of Iran was more or less correct. That's all good. All right. Yeah. Cosmo's giving me his thing. My PC also refused to start before this show. Something about this show absolutely screws up technology. So we always come in pretty hot and ready, and pretty bad, pretty raw and ready. The gotcha stuff I don't like. Like Joe Rogan just absolutely destroyed Bernie Sanders, not even meaning to do it. That's the best kind of destruction, is when you just let them destroy themselves. Like asking someone like, well, what do you mean by that? Can you explain that some more? That is the question of, can you explain that some more, has one shot so many intellectuals. It has been so much fun to watch. And there's no, the greatest wisdom we're getting right now is from fools. And I'm kind of here for it. I kind of like it. Well, not really. Like, I don't think Joe Rogan's a fool necessarily. It depends on what you're talking to him about. But when he's just asking questions, that's actually quite wise to do, is you're just asking some questions and seeing what people think. And apparently, like, people like Candace Owens think some crazy shit. The problem is people get so anti-Israel or so pro-Israel, and it all just ends up sounding like the same bullcrap. It's very much team sports. It's very much team sports. If Netanyahu violated the ceasefire right now and Trump just had him assassinated, I'd be like, good for you, Trump. I don't need that guy. Screw him. I mean, I'm not super happy with Israel because I think the video before the October war was them spitting on a bunch of Orthodox Jews spitting on Christians. And not a big fan of that. I don't think the Christians deserve to be spat on. I don't know. Maybe the Christians were on fire and I didn't see that. Anyways, the absolute one-shotting of these social media influencers right now on X is legendary, because there's got to be a taxonomy of it. There's got to be like an anthropology of being one-shotted. Is that you make a bad prediction. Everybody does that. I do that. I haven't made a video on it yet, but I was wrong about the H-1B visas. Like, I was super duper wrong. I thought the H-1B visas were 65,000 people in the United States, and that was it. No, it's 65,000 a year, extendable from 4 to even 8 years. And that doesn't count who gets naturalized by just marrying some random person, right? So there's actually more like 500,000, which is a massive amount. That's probably, I think Silicon Valley or like the tech sector has like 2.5 million employees. So now 20% is H-1Bs. And then you get the idea that like companies will do layoffs for, like, if you do layoffs in a company, your H-1Bs should be the first one you lay off, right? Like the citizens are the last ones you lay off, but that's not how it works, right? So I've reversed my position. I've not made that public yet, but except for right now, but I was totally wrong with the H-1B visas. The reason why I was wrong is because I had a pretty limited experience of H-1B visas, and they were pretty good. I liked them. I liked working with them. And I have a lot of experience with the American university system, and we're churning out some really, really bad engineers. Turns out we're still making good engineers. Best engineers I know of are all homeschooled, by the way. Like the legendary, awesome engineers, the guys who could like build a car, actually do work on race cars. They're all homeschooled. So go figure that out, right? Anyways, okay, so you have a bad take, right? You have a bad take. Everybody has bad takes. Then you get some new information, right? So what do you do with that new information? Do you double down, or do you say, I might have been right? Now, if you say I'm completely wrong, we're going to question your integrity. Okay, there's actually a wrong way to apologize and make things right. Is if you're just an absolute noodle spined, give in to the mob, no one's going to ever trust you again. If you really believed in something, it should take a while for you to get deprogrammed from it, right? Like if I can talk to a Christian and make him an atheist in one day, I have to ask, did you actually ever believe in anything? Probably not. All right. So you'd want to question the information that you get. Like, okay, this new information that proves me wrong, first off, is it true? I'm gonna have to sit with this. And then you give yourself an if statement, right? Like, if this is correct, this is going to change my thinking. Bizarrely enough, yeah, we should be flexible with your opinions. Yeah, absolutely. Like, again, like, this is what Cosmo says, is that ideas die so that we don't have to, right? Ideas die so we don't have to. That means that our ideas are meant to be proven wrong so that we don't get eliminated along with them. Okay. Strangely enough, the person who I think has the most integrity right now on social media, just based on their streams, and I'm not watching everybody's streams, okay? So I don't know. Maybe there's somebody who's better. It's actually Jeremy from D-Day Cobra, from Geeks and Gamers, because he said right from the outset, if this happens, I'm no longer on board, right? Boom, like from the get-go, right? Because and this is why. Like, it proves this wrong, it proves that wrong. People who are saying that this is against Trump's like disarming Iran was against Trump's, agenda, didn't listen to his campaign promises. I didn't listen to all of the campaign promises. I had no idea that he had said we're not going to let Iran get a nuclear weapon. It just wasn't on the forefront of my mind. But that's why video exists, so we can watch it again later. So he's been consistent on this. So anybody who's surprised, I consider Israel right now to be more of a tool, which is why I don't really care one way or the other. They seem to be they're consistent for now. I don't watch a lot of Mark Dice. I can only watch so many people. But I've watched Mark Dice a couple times. I liked him. I need to refollow him. I've like nuked 3 X accounts so far. You're not supposed to say Annie Trey on X, even though Elon ran the place. I think you could say it now. I think I've seen a few people say it. Anyways, that's a funny story of why I got banned from X. That's why men are ghosting and not men are speaking on X. It's a funny story. I basically observed that all these, since Cosmo's fixing his stuff, I'll go on a side. I observed that the TERFs in England, like the trans exclusionary radical feminists, kept going after trans people, like in terms of women's rights. They kept going after, the sports thing and all this other stuff. Not a damn thing to say about the grooming gangs. And my observation there was that the victims of the grooming gangs were not political rivals to the TERFs. However, the Transformers were. All right, the Transformers were going after the political power that the TERFs had. That's the only reason the TERFs have a problem with them, I think, is because they're stealing their thunder. Like, because if the TERFs actually cared about women, they would actually do something about the grooming gangs. They would be fighting for what was it, Tommy Robinson? They'd be fighting for him tooth and nail, but they're nowhere to be seen. Nowhere to be seen. That's why I see the revealed preference of people is what they're willing to stick their neck out for. And I see a lot of these political ladies not really sticking their neck out for other women. So I don't take them very seriously as feminists. I just see them as using another victim tautology to gain political power. So I made that observation. If you're implying, by the way, that me and Cosmo are married, that's hilarious. I think I might have to canonize that fanfic. That's too funny. No, I'm married to a English woman. Well, ethnically she's English. She's actually Australian. No, she doesn't have the cool accent. I wish she did. There's only so much you can do. Anyways, I don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right, not to each other. Okay, I'm about to say that'd be hilarious. I've heard of putting a persona online. That would be heavy duty. That'd be some the prestige level. Putting a persona online. I'm just like, yeah, in public, I'm completely. It's the opposite. But the world is my closet. Oh, that's too funny. I'm gonna tease Cosmo about that. I'm married. Cosmo, I think, is engaged, but I'll let him speak to that. Right. So I don't usually. I'm very much the kind of guy that doesn't actually know your name. If I work for someone for 5 years, I don't get. I know it's a bit of a meme from like Ron Swanson, but I am that meme. I will just not know your name for a long time. I didn't know my wife's birthday until like 5 years into the marriage. It was starting to piss her off. I'm a bad person. Anyways, Yes. Okay. So the process of getting one shot by this. Okay. What happens is after if they've failed to put a line in the sand of which when they're going to change their mind, right? It's the Scott Adams tactic of when you're about to argue with someone, ask them, hey, what is the threshold where you'd actually change your mind, right? If they have no threshold at which they'll change their mind, that means they're ideologically possessed. The idea owns them, right? What happens after that is they find themselves a niche audience because social media influencers never really die. They'll find a niche audience, and if they're lucky, some other country is going to fund it. I think that a lot of this anti-Jew and this and that on X it's got all the stinking of a foreign op. And I like to think that the right is pretty good at knowing glowies, but we've got glowies from different countries. Okay. We got spice glowies. Okay. And this feels pretty inorganic because it's happening fairly rapidly, but I think a lot of Gen Z is getting swept up in it. So there's a lot of Gen Zs out there that are just like sad and desperate and thirsty I don't blame them, by the way. I don't blame them, but I will point it out that a lot of people need a social group. And just like the flat earthers, there'll be people that think that Jews are doing all this stuff. I think Muslims get away with way more than I think there's definitely a pro-Muslim conspiracy. Alex is back. Hey man, what's up?
Hey, sorry about that. That was the most involved restart I've ever had to go through.
I had my computer also like it was stuck in standby mode. Like when I started, I had to hard reset it, like take the power cord out to get it to start again. So it was the weirdest stuff. I don't know if Windows pushed an update or what, but we've got terrible luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, man. Yeah. I don't blame people for not wanting to change their minds. Changing your mind is actually like a 120 IQ plus move. Changing your mind is also very humiliating. So you'll see a lot of really smart people never change their mind. There's nothing more retarded than a genius who has his mind made up. All right, because the problem is if you're a genius and you have a really high IQ, you tend to have a pretty high opinion of yourself, right? I'm just rambling on here. My contention at this very moment, my thought is focused on the fact that people with very high IQs tend to become very retarded. There is a second hump in the Gaussian distribution in the super genius category that puts you right back where the midwits were, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you've been smart your whole life. So you turn into an arrogant person, right? Everyone else around you is an idiot. Wouldn't it be better if I ran things? I know more than everybody else. So all of a sudden you get confronted with some information that should change your mind normally. And you just haven't built the character, a trait of humility enough to actually change your mind. So you'll see a lot of really smart people getting completely destroyed by the changing circumstances. Yeah, dude, Trump has destroyed so many 130 plus IQ people.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I think you're right. I mean, this is one of the major insights I gained doing my competitive gaming thing is there are people who plateau really early because they use their prefrontal cortex for everything.
Oh yeah.
And they as a result of being smart, they never have to. Oh my God, dog. Sorry. They never have to develop instincts for anything or feel that they don't. And so they're stuck in this slow linear prefrontal cortex processing rather than just like automating and offloading, well understood areas. They never deeply internalize knowledge.
They might also have, do these people also have they have autism?
It's a hard one to say. I refrain from speculation.
I refrain. That's a very lawyer speak. All right, so my wife is on the autism spectrum. She's got Asperger's syndrome. I don't believe in the autism spectrum. I tried to explain this to my wife once. Where I'm like, there's not like a broken leg spectrum, right? Like I've got a sore leg versus my leg is now in half, right? There's some people who, because it just washes away all the people who actually need help. Like there was this big attack against RFK because you want to try and eliminate autism. It was like, well, I'm perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with me. It's like, there's some people that are horrendously. Hey man, appreciate it, man. Put on notifications, but this is our new time slot. We start at 5 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays. I'm going to try to get off my ass and do another show. So I'll have a show every Thursday at this time where I'm just talking to myself. We'll see how that works out. I'll probably just get more. It's just who's that Cobra guy? The poor alcoholic fella.
Yeah, something Cobra. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, King Cobra, something like that. That's just my Thursday stream, and you're just like tuning in my Thursday stream, and you're just like, dude, what the fuck? Like, stop this. That'd be really funny. That if I was trying to maximize YouTube, all right, there's two things I do to maximize YouTube. Okay. I'll turn this channel into a pure history channel where it's just me voicing over things. And I try to go to a vocal coach, or I try to vocally make myself able to be, you could sleep to it. That's what I would do. So I'd just be a sleepy channel, sleepy facts. Luton is a absolute pioneer of sleepy facts. His is Warhammer 40K. I would do something else. I watched an hour video on bolts once, on like the different types of bolts, and I gotta say I learned a lot because I'm an engineer and that's just my jam. Anyways, the other tactic I would do is destroy my own life. Those are the two routes of extreme success on YouTube: is be something you can fall asleep to, or be something that is a train wreck. And I would probably try to outdo DSP. I think he's living a fun life. You're such a scumbag. I want to be that free. I want to be that free. Anyways, the memification. All right, so I was talking about the stages of crashing out. Stage one is you make a prediction that's wrong. Happens to all of us. How do you handle it? Second step, you get the information that proves that you're wrong. What do you do with it? Do you double down? Do you make excuses? There's a wrong way to be right, which is you immediately change like 180, right? You can't do that. And if you're smart, you know you shouldn't do that. Third stage is now your fans are hating on you. You're giving them, and you have, if you do it the right way, you slowly have a discussion with your fans, and then you change your mind in an organic way. The problem is this 12-day war. 12 days is not enough time to change your mind fundamentally on global issues. However, it is way enough time, apparently, with Donald Trump to be proven horrifically wrong. And that brings me to the fourth step, is if you do not do the previous steps correctly, you will become a meme. And that is the death. That is the graveyard. That is your graveyard. DSP will never escape being a meme. There are videos of him that are probably 5 years old that get played for laughs. The Tucker Carlson thing, I think, turned into a meme. Like, I think someone said, like, do you know the population of Japan? I was like, well, why are you dropping bombs on them? You don't know anything about Japan. That sort of thing. I was like, oh, yeah. And whether it's right or wrong doesn't really matter in terms of the meme. It's just, is it funny or not?
Yeah. I mean, I think the Tucker Ted Cruz thing was like a bit of an odd phenomenon because neither of them cover themselves in glory. There.
No. Yeah. And I talked about this while you were out. Is like, Ted Cruz is not a likable person, and he's also not really MAGA.
No. Yeah. There's, for a while, I had a bit of like backdoor access into Texas politics.
All right.
And there's a lot of people who are like, you know, okay, they might be useful tools for the party's side.
Correct,
but make no mistake, they're tools and not in the implement sense.
I mean, most politicians are that way, though. That's my understanding. Or at least my stereotype of politicians, that they're just meat suits that can speak into a microphone, and they just go. Yeah. If they're career politicians, especially, you get an activist politician. I think Joe Kent is an activist politician. Like, the guy's wife died. He got obliterated in Oregon. He's still coming back for more. Usually if you get obliterated and you leave, that's a good sign you didn't actually care. I like to see someone get obliterated. Like Carrie Lake, we'll see. You know, she's still going at it. We'll see if she does something of it, right? Forget Donald Trump got obliterated in the 90s. Yeah, so he came back for more. Anyways, The Tucker Carlson thing, yeah, neither of them covered themselves in glory. Nobody liked Ted Cruz, and he's in a comfortable place of not being very well liked. However, Tucker Carlson is not. He is uncomfortably liked, and now he's going to be uncomfortably disliked by some, maybe many. And certain things that he's done before, like the Putin interview, are now being juxtaposed with the Cruz interview. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna. I mean, if I was interviewing Putin, I'd also softball him. Like I'm in Russia. Imagine a hard interview. Imagine you go hard on Vladimir. First off, the balls on that guy. You'd be a ledge. You'd be an absolute ledge. And you would never get out of that place alive. And no one would ever see that video unless you live streamed it. So, yeah. All right. But like a little bit, sneaking a little bit of something in there would have probably been good. Of like, here's a difficult position. But yeah, the problem is his patterns. His patterns are now going to, when you do something wrong on the internet, your entire history gets run through and people will start drawing patterns. And this is another thing. It's not just the hot take, like the influencer hot take stuff is one phenomenon, but then the complete recontextualization. I remember Cernovich went after Tucker because Tucker was wearing a bracelet. Like when Tucker was kind of being critical of Trump at some point, it was like 4 years ago plus. And Cernovich was going nuts because Tucker was wearing this like bracelet, which was allegedly some sort of Indian spiritual bracelet, which just sounds like something that a dude who lives in New York might wear. To me, it wasn't enough. But then people are going to scrub through and going to re-find everything that could be questionable.
Yeah, that's not healthy for the human mind, as it turns out.
No,
I mean, it's healthy to like have some recall of when you got predictions wrong. But like, you know, the grievance excavation is not healthy.
Yeah, and people can spin a whole narrative. So that's what I'm saying is like you have to be completely crazy to be on social media and be a figure like this, or you haven't thought it through, or you really are just that guy.
Yeah.
I think Matt Walsh might be that guy.
This gets me back to like my terminal current thing boredom.
Yes. Tell me about it. You were about to make a really good point, and I just vamped and like send us on. So if you want to,
no, you took over for my technical disaster.
Well, it's not nobody's fault, but like you were about to say something really cool, and I would like to. You could disregard anything I've said during that disaster and rejoin your train of thought. Feel free.
Yeah, just you know, going over this, like when there's a situation happening that I know I have like very little control over, and people who are talking about it, you know, probably have very little control over it, and it's going to take some time to resolve, and it's like going, you know, I know I'm just taking psychic damage from, you know, logging into X or, you know, talking to people about this shit. Like, you know, it just started, you know, remember the Ukraine war, like give it a minute here, buddy.
Yeah. Wait a minute. Yeah.
You know, after a certain point, I just say like, I'm bored. And it's a very important thing to be able to learn to follow your boredom. Is it talks you out of having hot takes on, you know, shit that you just don't care about. Is like, you know, I'm bored with this, and boredom is a powerful instinct. I mean, often it'll get you out of doing things that you should be doing, but it's really important to cultivate it to get you out of things that you shouldn't be doing.
That's right. Yes. If your interest is not there, your competence will not follow. That's my like shitty quote that you'd put on like a poster right there. That was so corny sounding, but it's true. If your interest isn't there, your competence will not follow. So do what you're interested in, and stay healthy and balanced. Obviously, I'm not always interested in lifting weights, but I have to do it, or else I'm going to have another shoulder injury working on a farm.
It's a bit like the news thing. Like, okay, you know, I probably like if I were to comment on this, I should go and get the full context, but I don't care enough to go and get the full context. So that should be a sign to me that I just don't care enough about this domain to be involved.
Correct.
I can probably speculate on some of the information architecture and, you know, how people may be drawing, you know, false signals or whatever, but like, I just don't care.
Exactly.
Or it's like, okay, well, you're all speculating on something that like, you know, the truth is the first casualty in war. Like you can't know.
Yeah. No, you can't. Exactly.
So you know, some of you may be right, most of you will be wrong, but you're all intellectually spinning tires. So I'm just going to check out of this conversation,
Correct.
and it may never be possible to know like the facts.
Exactly.
But you know, I'm just going to let this go. You know, there's something about like you miss every swing that you don't take, but honestly, some swings are not worth taking.
I have a saying that I told my wife. By the way, if someone just put everything I talk to my wife about on the internet, it would be. I do podcasting 8 hours a day. I just don't put it on the internet because it's all just to my wife. Poor girl. One of the things I told her one day was that quitting is the first step towards moving on, and you got to move on. Like you got to quit. Like people who say winners never quit. Winners quit all the time. Winners quit all the time. They are very strategic about what they put their effort into, or they just got lucky. And just getting lucky is not a strategy in life, right? So, who are your news source? So I have a news source that I really like, and so far he's not full of crap. It's Vince Dow. You know, remember he was
sure, yeah. He of the whatever it was, like big panel thing.
Yes. And his news coverage is actually really good. I have to say that his quality is about on par with the Lotus Eaters, but it's like just him doing it. He has video clips; they're all queued up. Everything's working great. He's just in his room, so he has no overhead. You can't buy a dude who has no. Hey, how's it going? You know, I always gotta say hi. Thanks, I appreciate it. Vince Dow is just in there doing it. And he just graduated college. I don't know if he's ever going to work a real job or if he's going to continue doing YouTubing. But the fact that he has an ability to have a real job means that he can't be bought. Like all right. So here's what I want your opinion on, Cosma, is how many of our influencers do you think are actually bought? In your opinion. Speculate like crazy. And the word "if" is your friend.
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to be bought. You know, you can be bought by somebody who's paying you to say something, or take a particular line, or like, you know, we care about this a lot, so always be on message. The rest, you know, whatever.
Sure.
And you can be bought in having audience capture. And you can be bought by yourself in a way, if that makes sense. You know, so
it doesn't actually. Could you explain that?
I mean, the simplest, you know, one simple manifestation of being bought by yourself is ideological possession.
Oh, you've sold yourself to the idea. Yeah, you're a whore for the idea. Yeah, you know, there's. I actually divide the world into two categories: a person who adheres to truth and a person who is a whore. That is it. There's two categories. Either there's the truth and the whore. That's it. Because the other currency that's out there is just approval of your fan base, which I mean, online fan bases are psychotic. I mean, look at what the online fan bases of different creators have done to them. And I don't mean just news creators or right wingers, just anybody who's online. Like it's almost like being groomed.
Yeah. Watch the people who move into leftist spaces. They're like the clearest and most obvious example.
True.
True. This may be affording Candace Owens a bit too little agency. Because I think she's a lot more agentic in her position, but it's certainly like one could certainly take the perspective of her that she got bought by her audience in a way.
Yes, I think Fuentes is also bought by his audience. Like I don't feel like a lot of that's organic because he's been doing it since he was young, right? I don't know when he started, but it was
like
young,
17, 18. It was during the first Trump election.
Oh geez, yeah. So he's been groomed online. Like
yeah. There were articles about him, like meet the teenage whiz kid who's getting Trump elected and stuff like that. There's people get groomed by their audience. Absolutely. You know, here's the thing: like all these ways of being bought are not mutually exclusive. You could be ideologically possessed and as a result, just willing to accept all kinds of money that happens to go along with it because it's essentially, free money to you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Although, as if you're in the habit of buying someone, like the recent saying around USAID, imagine being a leftist for free.
That's a sad life, man.
Don't pay for somebody you already own unless they're getting you something else. Unless they're unless they're getting you what's a term for it? The cultivation of an asset, capacity.
Philosophy Tube's HRT treatments aren't free. Okay, someone's paying for that.
Well, I mean, if you're buying people, don't buy somebody who's already willing to do it for free unless they get you, connections or ability to inject influence elsewhere.
Well, the thing is, you can always buy someone more.
Yeah, I suppose so. The benefit is often not intensive, but extensive in that who does this person get you access to? And in many cases, it's often their audience and the ability to mobilize them on tap.
I think it'd be really funny is if you and I just put on our scumbag hats and role played as people who are buying off YouTubers. Because I just had a thought. I would absolutely buy off. All right, so I need to buy sock puppets. I had to explain the Israel Gaza thing with sock puppets actually to my wife. It was the funniest shit. They ended up turning into Kermit and Alex Jones. I don't know why that dynamic happened because I had to try to explain to her what's going on in social media. Sock puppets, right? I would absolutely pay sock puppet A to have an opinion. Both these are both my leftist puppets, right? I own both of these puppets. I want to strengthen this one. I like this one. This one's more capable. This one's a bottom feeder. They're not very attractive. They don't enunciate very well. They're not like. Part of the reason why Hassan is so popular is because girls find him handsome, right? I think who did the show with Elijah Schaefer a while back?
Sydney Watson.
Yeah. I looked at her askance when she said, "I think Hassan's handsome." I don't know, and I looked at her askance of like, "Okay, you're not on this team." Because
consider also that I would say most women who have seen Scream think Ghostface is attractive. So, your mileage may vary there.
I have some off the record.
What's the thing? Yeah. Werewolves, vampires, pirates, doctors, billionaires is the female erotica fantasy thing.
Oh yeah. The idea of, I could kill you is very attractive to women. And you don't have the funny thing is, all right, this is a quick aside. I'm going to spend 30 seconds on this at most. Okay. And then I'm going to get back to my sock puppets. Okay. We should do it. We should do a cast on ladies at some point, but I feel like women they choose their man based on how the man makes them feel, not based on the man actually. Cause I've seen a lot of short dudes do really, really well because they know how to make women feel certain ways. And that's it. That guy is my dad. My dad is 5'1", and he got himself a 6 foot tall wife, like a blonde Kansas woman, which is why I'm built like a broad shouldered football player. My dad is a small Chinese man. Okay. But he climbed the mountain and he saw the light. So there you go.
As it were.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta say the man has got riz. I wish I had the charisma that he has. Anyways, back to my sock puppets. Okay, I got this awesome one over here. I want to promote him. I got this dumpy one. This is a pawn. The dumpy one is the pawn. I'm gonna pay this one to have a bad opinion, so this one could destroy this one, and then just eat it. And now this one is even better because he's purity tested the other person and led a crusade against the other person I was paying. So this other one, of no fault of their own, just because they were low agency and easily influenced, I got them to jump on a grenade. And sometimes you could do that to make the entire left pivot, like positions. Like you make the entire left pivot depending on the position, right? You could make the position was against Israel, like anti-Israel. I think that was the position because usually before you would have a mix of them in the party, in the leftist party, in the Democratic Party. And now they're just eating up anyone who thinks that Israel is anything less than the new Reich. Right? They think that if you don't think Israel is the Fourth Reich, you're going to get eaten alive and then make the other one stronger, right? Which is why Hassan is like, hyper extreme, I think, is because he just eats people. Like Ethan's actually Ethan Ralph, or so no, Ethan Klein. That's not Ethan Ralph. Ethan Klein versus Hassan is, I think, an example of this. And I don't think Ethan Klein was being paid, but I think he was also put on the sacrifice. Like, who didn't predict that was going to happen? Did it happen organically? Maybe. Accidents happen, coincidences happen. But them finding enemies on their own side in a possibly inorganic way actually strengthen their own side. It's like paying one of your own inquisitors to be heretical. So you can.
I mean, I think the people who come up out of Destiny's orbit, I feel like, are a good example of this as well. And I mean, if I really turned my mind to it, I could probably find people like examples on the right, but like, boy, is the left like ample feeding ground, partially because, like active asset cultivation was involved, not in like all YouTube spaces, but the pattern shows itself. And like the come up of somebody like Pisco, I think looks very, he's a lawyer type guy who, was in Destiny's orbit and eventually got like graduated up. But yeah, it looks very much like grooming, as in like preparatory. Okay, you are going to assume this role in the constellation of blah blah blah. Like Destiny, like cues Pisco up for a debate with Lauren Southern and stuff like that, and then like Lauren Southern and Destiny had an entanglement that was later revealed, and like
there's a lot of that interbreeding on the right griftosphere, and it's like having a first off, like, I think you said it last time we had a talk, that sexual deviancy is actually a pretty good indicator that this is a weak link. Yeah, ideologically, like they're going to betray you in some point. Like even like the stories of like Lancelot, right? Same thing. It's like if you're, and I'm going to admit, I don't actually understand it. I don't know if it's because like part of me is Chinese or something like that, but I don't understand why people have such a strong sexual desire. It's like, guys, like if you ever had sex, it's not that great. It's okay. Yeah. It's like a pizza. It's like, why are you destroying yourself over this? It's just so weird to me. I don't know. Maybe,
but I mean, honestly, I'm right there with you. Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful to have in your life, but reconfiguring your entire life around it, it's almost like you're not overcoming a base animal nature. Like, even if you profess faith and stuff like that, like if you reconfigure so much of your existence around sex, you haven't genuinely transcended lust. I mean, not that you permanently transcend it, or that, you won't say foolish things to a woman or something like that. But like, you're absolutely being ridden by this thing. It's like ideological possession, but it's not articulate. It's just your animal brain controlling you. This is also part of the reason why, like, that flaming gays, at least in my opinion, tend to be immensely boring people. Like, okay, you've made your sexuality everything about you. Like, okay, you're exactly the same as all these other people who do it. Like, there's no difference between you. And like, you have nothing of, you're adding nothing of value beyond an immediate concern for your loins. It's not interesting,
Yeah, and it's a good reason as to why any identity group actually becomes this way, right? Oh, Close Encounters of the Feline Kind. I like it. By the way, don't worry about that. I think it's awesome. That's why I kind of don't want the right to have like a racial identity. I love America, and I'm happy that the revealed preferences of America seem to agree with I think what's good for it. What's good is that if America becomes an identity that's anything other than the American identity, appears to me to be that we just love great stuff. Like, it's make America great again. It's not actually even make America Christian again. It's not make America white again. It's not make America anything else. It's just great. What does great mean? Well, that's up for everyone to fight and find out, right? Like we need to. The conflict is inherent in our identity, and the idea of us becoming homogeneous is actually the worst thing that could possibly happen to the United States. I want conflict to continue in a nice, productive way, like a nice low simmer. When I was a kid, my dad would have me and my brother resolve our. By the way, this is Asian dudes are awesome. My dad would have me and my brother resolve our differences by boxing in the front yard with like gloves and everything. He was trying to groom us into becoming boxers. So that,
but not musicians.
I actually learned music on my own. That was like me. I think he knew where our genetics were going to bias us towards. And he was like, I'm going to go full anti Mandarin eunuch on you guys. Okay. We're just going to like, I'm going to make sure you're proper men. Cause I would absolutely been like some fat video game playing dude. If I'd just been left, well, like problem solver. Cause I'd gotten those genes. Anyways. Yeah. We're absolutely fist fighting in the front yard. And that's how my dad had us resolve things. And it leads to better peace. So I actually don't want a homogeneous nation. I don't want a homogeneous right. I don't want a purity tested right either. I kind of like having a little bit of, that's why I guess for the right, that rules for radicals thing, the unfriendly camp is actually really important for us to stay healthy. Yeah. It's actually
loyal opposition.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? It's been a few years since I wrote that, but I think that sounds very true. If that wasn't what I was thinking at the time, it should have been what I was thinking, because we do need a loyal opposition.
So there's an interesting thing, and I think America does actually need to have the ethnicity conversation in some depth.
Yeah.
But I think it's different for us than it's going to be for Europeans. One of the things like diversity versus homogeneity can come up in a lot of contexts. For me personally, like in a workplace, diversity can be useful, but diversity with a capital D cannot, because it involves a specific ideological pre-commitment. I've pretty much worked for startups my entire career, and one thing that comes with startups is very strong, very clear mission statements. Here's the mission. I want absolute homogeneity. I want absolutely everyone here to be hard in the paint, like absolutely for this. If you are different from that, you do not belong here. That said, you can be all kinds of diverse in all sorts of other ways. Just the pre-commitment is that you be absolutely unified in this.
Correct.
Similar things for the tabletop gaming space, and this is an emergent issue that's coming up all over the place. Like, Trench Crusade or 40K are struggling with this right now. Where they're being, and like you can see it in some of the Helldivers stuff and the Transcape and all that. The reason we're here is to play this game. It's about this game and what we create around it. Yeah. If you bring in political pre-commitments as a requirement to be in this community is not about the game anymore. It's about those pre-commitments.
And all right, I want to actually highlight this, because I don't dislike Europeans or Europe, but I have to, as an American, dislike Europeans in Europe. It's really,
it's very much the go away, Shane, go away kind of thing.
Yeah. And it's not because I actually really like them, but yes, they have a different operating system. So lollygagging, it is very different for Europeans, because America is a mission-oriented country. Make America great again is a mission. And if someone from India helps along with that mission, I think the revealed preference of all Americans, if you polled Americans of like, okay, we got this guy who's a biochemist who has found a cure for cancer. Should we let him in? Americans are going to say, why are we even asking me? Yes, let him in. What are you doing? Get him to work immediately. Like there's a what's another controversial? I'm just going to say Indonesian because that's what my dad is. Like if there's like some Indonesian person who's going to join the IRS and he's really good with bookkeeping and he's going to find lots of fraud, he's probably going to, people are going to say like, yeah, by all means, work at the IRS and find fraud in the, join Doge. Why not? Like, are you helping with the mission? It's the Americans that aren't helping. It's the diversity that isn't helping the mission. People are reacting to, and I think people are overreacting because I think a lot of these right wingers that are trying to go for ethnic homogeneity, sure, it's very European style. That's the reason why I don't agree with Aaron McIntyre. Yeah. I will have a video about Aaron McIntyre someday when I actually get off my butt. I've just been doing nothing but writing scripts. But like the kind of conservatism that Aaron McIntyre want is an ethnic heritage type. I don't care how long your family's lived in America. You could be, there's a lot of Americans that are here since the beginning who are absolute raging leftists and they live in New England.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not lineage based. It's not lineage based for Americans, but I do think a clear understanding of American ethnicity is super, super important. And this is why I think Americans need to have the ethnicity conversation.
Yeah.
You know, sort of like lollygagging says, you know, it is mission driven, but it's not just like mission in abstracto, like, or from nothing. You know, it is cultivated on a historical background, a set of circumstances, which, by the way, additionally makes it, as the process settles out, welcoming to outsiders in certain capacities and ability to join the tribe.
Yeah.
Ethnicity means tribe. And America is an ethno state. It's just multiracial, but you have to be willing to join the tribe. You can come over, you can bring expertise and stuff like that, but like, if you're not willing to comport yourself with the norms, expectations, behaviors, and outlook of the tribe, you know, you're on a temporary visa, no permanent position to stay.
Correct.
If you express a willingness to join and a love for the tribe, even if your integration is never going to be perfect, but you promise that your children are going to belong to this tribe, come on in. You can be American.
Yeah, the right does not understand what an American is. I'm going to say that the I don't know what kind of there's a flavor of right that does understand, and they'd probably be called moderates, and they'll be called lots of names on the internet for having a pretty normal position, right? But America wants to be great, as I said before, not moral, not even good. What I see America as becoming is kind of a machine of control and a machine of we are the currency upon which treaties are made. I could see two countries like India, Pakistan having a ceasefire treaty and then asking America to endorse it. And the idea, the expectation being is if you violate this treaty, you're going to get strategically bombed by America. Like because a lot of treaties right now cannot be endorsed by two parties. I could see Trump doing the same thing with Ukraine and Russia. I was like, okay, where are the lines? Where do you want? What's your end goal? Where do you want this?
Yeah.
And then
I mean, the Russia-Ukraine one is a bit different because, you know, America was for a long time the sponsor of Ukraine. This doesn't.
You're good.
He's got a no hide over there, and he's going nuts for it.
That's too funny.
America was the sponsor of Ukraine for a long time, so that's sort of why it, you know, made sense for America to mediate the thing. Is, you know, we're calling off our little yappy dog.
Yeah.
And, you know, we seem to have washed our hands of it, and now if we're mediating it, it's just, you know, as a guarantor or as a what do you call it, as a notary. I'm not really an expert in this, but my understanding is that the ceasefire between Pakistan and India was at least partially mediated by the United States. Pakistan gets a little weird because India is kind of a strategic ally, India is a strategic ally, particularly in positioning against China. And then Pakistan is, to a certain extent, a client state. We do a lot of our intelligence and money laundering through Pakistan for concerns in other theaters.
And by the way,
they're a particular kind of vassal or front. So that's maybe a little weird, but like they're both our pets, but America has also done dispute resolution for, you know, like countries, neither of which are our creature.
And I want to add on to that is that who the United States belongs, or sorry, who belongs to the United States, it's actually the factions inside the United States. Because I will vehemently defend the position that America is an empire because it has all of the same imperial trappings of it. Is that yes, MAGA is the closest thing to a nation that the United States has ever had, because they actually have the self-interest of the nation. Most of America prior to that was different internal groups vying for power. and cooperation is more profitable and more beneficial than competition. Once you've sort of tested your competition's resolve, then you find out, okay, this competition is formidable. I have to contend with them. And that means I have to ally with them. That's why it's kind of important for even like marriage, even relationships like marriage have to have like this contention of like, oh yeah, if you do this, you're going to see this. And if I do that, then you're going to see this. Sort of like mutual threat thing going. The faction inside the United States, our intelligence faction has been pretty much out of control. And you can tell that we haven't fully reined them in. And we might never want to, because although they're not necessarily America first, they are useful, which is
I think every few generations you just need to like unannouncedly, like your dynasty needs to just like literally kill every intelligence officer every few generations and then reinstate a new one.
I mean, that's kind of the
that might be like a bit of an Eastern despot way of putting it, but like you do need periodic purges, otherwise your intelligence apparatus owns you.
And that's why, and I think that's why COVID was actually a big it was
an accelerator. This is one of the things like Michael Malice got absolutely right. A lot of very bad people learn some very important lessons for where the limit is from COVID.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's something the factionalism thing I think is a great insight, and I think there's it has been a while since we've had a coalition that's dominated by a like James Lindsay, as much as he is ideologically pre-committed to, a fuzzy notion of liberalism, is right about one thing. That by and large, most Americans understand at a non-articulate level what American is, and they really like it, and they want it back.
Yes. The return to Fresh Prince is real. And I got to say of our English commentators out there who say it's not possible, I'm going to do a quick aside. America will return to Fresh Prince. We'll have someone new. We're going to normalize race relations. And without the extreme money and foreign money backed coalition of college thinkers that made BLM and DEI possible, right? Like there was a massive concerted effort to subvert the America at that time, which had reached a happy homeostasis. So when people say like, well, this sort of return to Fresh Prince, it'll never work. I was like, there was so much energy put in to topple America from that mindset, and it didn't even work. The American mindset still wants that and still thinks it's possible. And whether they're wrong or not, I think races actually can get along quite well. Now, there has to be boundaries. I do think the Civil Rights Act went a little bit too far. All right. Bye, John Harvey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right that there needs to be, appropriate boundaries, or like the expectation is it's a melting pot, so melt.
Exactly. Yeah, melt. You have to. There's a mission.
The Civil Rights Act, by and large, creates the structure for a way of living that I very much enjoyed, and kind of a return to Fresh Prince way. It's worth admitting that it's not without trade-offs, because it does substantially interfere on freedom of association. It was clearly interfering on some very bad freedom of association, but it also set some strong limits on some very desirable freedom of association as well. So it's not without trade-offs. And I mean, sort of in the past, why I talked about like, I think on the last stream I said like African Americans are an African descended lineage of Anglo-Saxons.
Yeah, they've grabbed on all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they're participatory in the American culture and have done so in a smooth and contiguous way. I think up until critical social justice really became ascendant.
Yeah, it took a lot of effort to actually subvert their value system, I think.
Yeah,
and the problem is it's out of living memory, because people who were alive back then. I said this one jokingly. This is one of the spiciest things I've ever said. We'll see if YouTube likes it. I said that if you keep going down I was talking to a black person. I said, if the black community keeps going down this route, you're going to learn why your ancestors feared hearing the N-word as much as they
Mhm.
did, because there's a lot of fear behind that, and there's for a reason. Because
Yeah.
I don't know about you, I'm Asian, right? And I understand Westerners pretty well. I think being half Westerner, like I'm genetically I'm Northern English, but and Chinese, which is a weird mix. This is what you get, by the way. I just look like ethnic. I look like ethnic mashed potatoes. But if you're not afraid of white people, then you're stupid. Because they will once you like set it off, they follow through on it pretty hard. And the only thing that's going to stop you is other white people. Like
yeah. It's like,
don't be on their shit,
bro,
because they're
like,
problem solvers, and you don't want to be looked upon as a problem. Because as soon as
don't like, bro, like ethnic minorities that want to create, breakaway ethnic factions and, split the country into a race war. Like, I hope you never get what you want, because it's not going to be good for you. And it's not because I believe like white people, have some unified racial interest or whatever. Like they by and large made America what it is by essentially, being gentle and giving that up and inviting into the tribe regardless. Like you do not want to recreate that ethnic line division, like in a still majority thing. Like, do not awaken a white racial consciousness. White people will not like it, and you will like it even less. It's a really bad idea.
And the reason why a white racial consciousness is somewhat incoherent is because I think that the mission thing comes back to mind, right? Mm-hmm. The mission thing comes back to mind, and the reason why sort of DEI and all this racial justice stuff actually has to be it still has to live in the frame of the mission of America, right? Because America says our mission is generally articulated as like, be all you can be, right? Reach your potential. Those are American things to say. It's not know your place, it's find your place, right? So they had to subvert it with equity by saying that if these preconditions, these things that happened before, are keeping these racial minorities from finding the place and reaching their potential, right? So it was a subversion of the American mission. However, that subversion doesn't last for long if it's not grounded in truth. Like the truth is quiet, but the truth will be heard eventually. Right. And then what happens when you're on the wrong side of that mission? Like Americans, through revealed preference, do not care about the ethnic stuff. Like,
they mostly care much more about like, and there's a really good way to see this. They mostly care much more about like, okay, are you adopting the folk ways and customs of where you live? Because America is very large. This might be like, a Berliner moves to Bavaria. I think the Bavarians would have some expectations of conduct of the Berliner in Bavaria. America's sort of the same way about a lot of other things. Like, we care about America, but America's, a lot of different nations and regions. It's the over tribe. But if you move into the tribe, we care that you also respect the tribe's norms and customs. A perfect illustration that this is factually the case is how much anxiety other regions and places in America have about Californians moving there, because there's a mass exodus from California. That regional cultures are different because both the Californians and the people they're moving to know it. And you have places like Bozeman, Montana, which is honestly like one of my favorite places on earth, got destroyed by Californians moving there. The local culture got obliterated.
Yeah.
This is like China settling 10 million Han Chinese in Tibet. Tibet ceases to exist. The Tibetan way of life ceases to exist.
That's why, and that's part of the American empire argument that I have, is that we have this freedom of movement that has no regard for any of the particular regions there. So conquest just means, can I block bust enough to send a massive purge of people outward? Right? If I was planning this, I don't think this is planned, but I've migrated all over the U.S. throughout my life. Like, unfortunately, I'm a bit of a nowhere person. But feel the same way.
particularly experiencing foreign countries and discovering things I love without, necessarily wanting, like, recognizing that my way and mode of being is different from theirs. I treasure it. I love it. I enjoy participating in it. I know I'm not one of them. Like when I lived in Italy or, any number of countries I've gone to.
I will.
I've become, like, as I move around America, I've become a close student of local culture. And like, okay, as long as I am here, I am going to obey your norms and customs because they have primacy.
I have integrated myself fairly well with my community. I have one last step is to join their church.
Mhm.
It's a stupid reason why I haven't already. It's just because I like to sleep in on Sundays. It's the stupidest reason ever. I've integrated myself well with my neighbors, and they consider me a good neighbor, which I consider very high praise. But yeah, I had to put some work in. Like, you have any idea how much gardening? Like, once they saw that I was doing lots of work on the land, then they accepted me in. I was like, okay, because I'll counter. I'll put an addendum on what you said. A lot of these local cultures are their own mission. They have their own mission. So if you go to Montana, there's a Montana way of life, right? There's a Montana mission. There's a West Virginia mission. However, once America weighs in, America is a bloody place. I would love to have a script or something that I'd write someday. America is a bloody machine that will grind you under its gears, and people need to realize that it's not your friend. America is not your friend. Even if it feels like it. Even if America would send special forces to save you if you got held as a hostage. Even if America would bomb cities just to save one American, it's still not your friend, because when you come back here, we'll absolutely pave over your town if we want to. And I need people to understand that, because there's a concerted effort right now in the American West to save a lot of the Bureau of Land Management land. And my message to them is, you need to stop trying to attack those who are coming for you, and need to start converting them to see what you see, right? Because if they don't see what you see, these are the bean counters. Like, empires are run by bean counters. And if you don't convert the bean counters to care about you, they will always win eventually, right? So
there's a fun historical lesson in that. Anthropologists discovered that the Mongol Empire kept some of its records in Aramaic.
What? Why?
To give a very Vladimir Putin, explanation, Persia conquers Babylon. Babylonian scribes adopted Aramaic as their language of record, because it was what their literate people were fluent in. Persia conquers Babylon. Babylon has this masterful administrative state that's a very well-developed administrative technology.
I have you on here. This is amazing. Yeah.
Persia carries it forward, and the official language of records in the Achaemenid Empire is Aramaic. This gets passed around between Romans and Muslims and all sorts of people. Like, look, the really developed, well-researched scribe class all does this stuff in Aramaic. The Mongols come in and like, oh, hey, this well-developed bureaucracy. Let's use these guys to administer our empire. And you get like Aramaic records in Ulaanbaatar, 2,000 years because the Persians conquered Babylon.
Here's the warning I'd send. I want to give this message to I think Braxton McCoy is one of the major voices for this BLM land thing. And I would say, I've got this video idea I have called Yesterday's Soldier, that America is not like an empire like other empires. Empires are, this is, by the way, apologize everyone, this is a complete aside. It's just something I've been thinking about and obsessing about of what is an empire and why does an empire? Why does an empire and what is an empire, right? Why does an empire do anything? It's to increase its acquisition. What is acquisition? It's reach and grasp, right? So if you have a territory and it's already within your reach, now you want to get the grasp. That means homogeneity, or at least cooperation.
Incorporation.
So, you can speak whatever stupid dialect you have, whatever weird language, as long as you make your tithes, as long as you pay your taxes, and you better be really good about it. And we want to maximize the value of your land, because we always want to squeeze more. So you got to be careful about incorporation, because just like the Roman Empire came to be dominated by Germans,
Um, there, you want to
America's-
control
yeah.
your Californian emigre problem.
Well, America has tools that other places don't. But yes, there's always the problem that's the part of the grasp, right? The grasp is going towards homogeneity towards the empire. So in other words,
Mhm.
getting the Germanics to realize that being Germanic is a bad thing, and they should, strive to be the center of the empire, whatever ethnic group that is. Like, I have a really controversial opinion. If you like controversial opinions, American slavery was probably the best way to integrate a foreign body, because you took the bottom of the barrel Africans and turned them into Americans who were enthusiastically literate, worked in a lot of music, sometimes worked in even technology, right? But more or less completely integrated. What did you have to do? You have to destroy their entire ancestral identity, and quite brutally, and convince them that they were just a bunch of barbarians. In other words, if you created an entire ethnic group of Uncle Ruckuses, they would be absolutely be an asset to you. So for the American,
this can backfire, because you're almost creating, like, you run the risk of creating Turkish janissaries that like fight for you but they hate you. Or like
the thing is,
the UK had an imperfect adaptation with pulling in the Scots into their imperial forces. By and large, the British Empire was forged by Scots who trained by repressing the Irish on behalf of the English. Unspoken advantage of the British Empire, by the way, is that their first dominated colony was Ireland, and one of the things that made their armies so effective is their soldiers that went anywhere else were 100% veterans, because they all did their first tour of duty in Ireland.
Right, and I'll address that too. Like the animus against the empire from these populations is that you're supposed to not do what the Groypers are doing. Right. That's why I'm quite against it. Is you're supposed to give them, it's like Sun Tzu. You're surrounding their ethnic group with tons of consequences, but you're giving them an out to retreat. And then actually integrate. But the thing is, if you don't give people an out to actually integrate, if you say that we must be homogeneous, you are actually restricting their ability to integrate, and therefore they will lash out. When I say, like, you want a bunch of people being Uncle Ruckuses, is you want people that want to integrate. They are vehemently against what they once were, and they're in favor of what they could be. And that could be is based on the mission of America, which is why America is successful at integrating, or has historically been successful with integrating, whereas Europe has not. Like, if England had a proportional per capita influx of Italian immigrants in the early 20th century, like America had, would they have handled it as well? I don't think so, because eventually these Italians turn into Americans. We gave them Columbus Day. We integrate. The empire also bows to its populations too. Like, it does offer these treatises to make them feel like they belong, and the harsh treatment is part of it, but the belonging is also fundamental. So
I'm going to send you an article that we should probably make the topic of a future episode. It's called The Mirage of America's Special Sauce Theory. The gist of it is essentially America actually has easier immigrants to integrate.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
We have a strong tendency to like recruit from the cream of the crop, whereas Europe is voluntarily taking dregs. Yes. And that makes it significantly more challenging for them. There's a bunch of routes out. Like, one is the Lee Kuan Yew, you know what? Screw it. We have like massive demographic splits. I'm going to time lock them in amber and forbid the demographic balance from ever changing while creating a unified Singaporean identity. Another option is, you have the Roman colony status, wherein Rome admits another city to full legal rights of Roman citizenship, law, and full equal status with Rome, like the city of Cologne, which still values its Roman peer status today, and its name literally means colony.
I didn't know that. That's very cool.
Yeah. there's a ton of to the we're straight up going to destroy your culture and you're us now.
Right. Well, the thing, what I'd say though is that the special sauce stuff, and I like this. Yeah, Europeans don't want to integrate because it'd be the death of you. You guys are ethnostates, and you're supposed to be ethnostates. There's no the German is a personal disposition. Like you were born a German. An American is forged. I don't like the melting pot thing. I always want to call it the crucible, because America will eat you up and kill you if you do not contribute to the mission.
It's like Los Angeles. It's like Los Angeles for ethnicities. If you're, a cute blonde who can sing and dance a little, this city has chewed up and spat out more of you than you can imagine.
Oh, dude, yeah, absolutely.
But also one of the things, just hearkening back to like, if you had the per capita immigration of like Italians that we did, it's like, well, one of the things of like the Statue of Liberty, send me your poor, your et cetera, poem, like idealism. Nobody likes to talk about that. America during that period of huge levels of immigration had massive, colossal, unbelievable remigration to the home countries.
Oh yeah.
You got chewed up and spit out and moved back to Tennessee.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. America will chew up and spit out the immigrants it doesn't want. But also notice, like when I said like African migration, I am not a conservative and I am not necessarily a classical liberal on this. Gosh, I love making spicy takes. Someday when I'm post mortgage, I will just say what I want to say all the time. I have very nuanced opinions on slavery. I think slavery was probably the only way we could have integrated the blacks into America, because their culture was so antithetical. Like if I was going to take a bunch of Pakistanis into America, I would make them a slave status and then pretty much do whatever I have to do to disabuse them of their language, their religion, and everything about them, and also convince them that Americans are the best and the greatest, and you should always aspire. Their children should. There are stories about young black women who would try to bleach their skin to be more white. Mexicans absolutely do this, by the way. They try to avoid sunlight. If you see Mexican landscapers, they're wearing like arm things, because in their society, that's quality, right? Because there's the more Spanish blooded Mexicans, and then there's the more indigenous blooded Mexicans, right? And there's a hierarchy there. You have to have a certain amount of shame to actually integrate properly, right? And it's not necessarily that any one is the epitome of what you should want. I think people should look at, all right, I'm going to be political again.
The most obvious, like the most straightforward way to put it is, does your conduct make people around you uncomfortable? Like this is the test for high school weirdos, and whether they're socializing properly is like, do you get that your behavior is making others around you uncomfortable?
Yes. Do we externalize do our desires stop where others' discomfort begins? Yes.
Right. And the shame thing is like, oh yeah, I see that my conduct being wildly variant from my neighbors whose well regard I would like to have for things like business, my children's sake, et cetera, is my conduct making them uncomfortable? Okay, I will try to behave like them. Like I spent some time being a loud, obnoxious American in Italy, and I realized it made, those around me uncomfortable.
You got to be a loud, obnoxious Italian in Italy, don't you? Are they not loud? Are they not loud and obnoxious in Italy?
It's different. It's like culturally mediated loud obnoxiousness. Yeah. Like, I learned to start having dinners at like 10 o'clock at night. Jesus. And, a short meal is 2 hours and involves 2 bottles of wine. And, okay. There's a lot of norms you have to take on, and your loud and obnoxious is different from their loud and obnoxious. Like you're indecorous versus their sprezzatura. Man, there's so much in here. I mean, that is a really hot take, and it reminds me of like what Muhammad Ali said, reflecting on his what do you call it? Diplomatic mission to Africa. I forget exactly what the purpose was.
Right.
He went over to Africa on a big grand tour, and he said like, on returning, he had an interview where he said, among other things, like, I thank God my great grandpappy got on that boat. And like, I will take an American black woman every day over an African woman because they are completely different.
No, it's
and I'm an American.
Re-ethnization is extremely important. And you have to show them that their ethnic group is valid and it fits within the mission of the empire. That is why the American empire is so damned powerful, is because you can be different. You don't actually have to erase yourself. You just need to orient yourself, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why a lot of blacks right now are having such a big issue is because of the concerted effort to make them into communists and to make them into clients of the state, right?
Yeah.
I've got a video idea bumping around my head, is that in defense of black people, which I think is a very funny title, is like they did everything they could to destroy them, and they were just like the prototype. They're going to do it to everyone. They're going to do the same shit they did to black people. They're going to do to everybody, and they are doing it to everybody. The strong,
make dependent, dissolve social bonds. I mean the great savior of civil rights legislation seemed to be Lyndon Baines Johnson. It turns out he was also the great Satan for racial harmony with his Great Society programs, and that it was a targeted nuke to absolutely destroy black family life and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, it's like
and to make them a permanently dependent client class after passing the Civil Rights Act and recognizing that he permanently ceded the South to Republicans.
It is
just on a strictly reactionary basis.
People who say that a multiracial America can't work, it's like they're looking at Japan and saying, well, Japanese culture is incoherent. And then they just forget about the 2 nukes and a military occupation.
Or they forget that
the concerted effort to make them not what they once were. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Yeah.
It's interesting to me that you are not. I think it's very fun for us to have these conversations because we are hashing out a different set of instincts, and as people who are interested in making sense out of the stories that people tell each other, that I would say at this point that I am quite conservative. Not necessarily in like the popular coinage, but
it would be interesting actually if we had a thing where we just talked about where we are, like what is our orientation?
I mean, there's a note you mentioned earlier. To tie it back to Trumpism, the build your opponent a golden bridge, like a Sun Tzu mutation, which I want to come back to. But what's striking to me is I think over time I've become a conservative. And it seems to me that the position you were in making sense out of this is actually as a right-wing progressive.
I am trying. We cannot. Okay, so here's my philosophy.
And it's interesting to me as a right-wing progressive that in this time of being very wrong about a 12-year war, you put Indian Bronson on blast, who is essentially someone that basically shares your worldview.
He put me on blast. I was just telling him what I was thinking.
Sure.
And he said the wrong thing. And I was like, all right, fuck you, buddy. He seems to be pretty pro-Iranian. My thoughts on this is that we cannot. I had a joke about this, about having a skit where I like find the receipt for the black slaves so I can finally like turn it in and return them. That's not going to happen. We're stuck with what we have, right? Even the Muslims, everybody. We're stuck with what we have, and we have to have a mission where we can incorporate them, or we're doomed.
Yeah,
because
I'll give you a big dumb hot. Yeah. Okay, I'll give you a big dumb hot take about Israel, and like not an expert, but this is just my hot take, on which I have no investment. I think part of the reason that Iran is such a big deal is essentially if Islam ever loses hold of Iran, I think there's a fear that the Middle East may have another country that hates the Arab-dominated world as much as the Israelis do.
Yes, I think so too. That's an interesting. I've never heard that before, and I instantly agree with it because they are ethnically Persian and they're resisting the Arab influence. Yeah.
No, yeah. They're essentially like are and have been for some time essentially Arab colonized for like 1,000 years or so,
Well,
and they fucking hate it.
Did you see? I made a tweet a while ago where I was actually. So here's the Christian superpower. Okay, it's not. It's very soft power. It's very subversive. I earned the trust of a young man when I was in college, and he said to me, Alex, you are the only person in the world I've ever met who I really truly trust. And I was like, that's a really big compliment. Thank you so much, Arya. Arya is the grandson of an Iranian general who was deposed during the revolution of the Shah. And I was like, you know what? If I was ever going to fight, like I'm 37, I could barely enlist still. It'd be fun to see Arya be a pilot like his grandfather was. There is no love for the Arab people. He was based as hell, blow the shit out of these guys. Absolutely wanting to fight. And I liked him quite a bit. And I think if Persia gets in if both, I mean, the Persians are also, I mean, obviously Turkey is extremely Persian. My boss is actually Turkish. He's not a hardline Muslim at all. I actually recommended him Iberica ham when he went to his vacation in Spain, which is like hilarious because it's like you're gonna go to the place where your so-called colleagues or whatever your ancestors, so-called ancestors, were tortured and pushed out, and he's like, no, I'm just going there for some fun chips and eat some ham, which is the most non-Muslim. They're Muslim by necessity. They're Muslim to survive. I don't think they're Muslim because they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to give our enemies an out. And a competent empire knows how to make more friends than enemies. I think the English Empire was very good at being an incompetent empire that was buoyed on its technology and its intellectual advantages. But that's not the issue we're discussing right now. I
have to hit the bathroom. I'll be back in just a minute.
By all means. I want to know more about Indy. If you can still hear me, I would love to know more about Indian Bronson because I barely interacted with the guy, and I'll give you the play-by-play of how that one worked out. But yes, right now the Iranian regime, I strongly feel, the regime, not the people. The Iranian regime is obviously an enemy of the United States, and my question is not, should we be bombing them now? My question is, why weren't we bombing them 30 years ago, 40 years ago? Like, our extremely weak-willed leadership. Yes, I agree with this. You have to save face. So Trump has done a lot of business in East Asia, and East Asia believes in face. You have to respect the dignity of the leaders of your opponents, right? You have to respect the dignity of the leaders of your opponents, or else they will always oppose you. If you give them an out in whatever version of honor they believe in, you actually have a possibility for peace. And that's why I have the same idea for the ethnic groups inside of America. Is we have no choice but to try and make peace, because war, an ethnic war inside of America, would be a second civil war, and I don't want that. And it would be such rhetoric if the Groypers got what they wanted, and the different ethnocentric Americans got what they wanted. It would be cataclysmic for the coalition that has formed the modern right, and it would be cataclysmic for the American identity. And it would be a destruction of what American is. And it's obviously not good for America, right? So we're stuck with what we got. We got to make peace. Okay? Blessed is the peacemaker. You don't make peace with your friends. You make peace with your enemies. Okay? That means blood feuds. So one of Trump's superpowers, as Lollygagging says, is allowing people an out without looking bad. I mean, look at the enemies that he made even during his rise to presidency, right? Like Marco Rubio, little Marco, should be someone that everyone hates, but he's a strange rock star. This is inside of Trump's cabinet right now. This is the equivalent of if the British Empire allowed like the best Hong Konger to come to England and study at Oxford and become an intellectual there, right? You've now made him English. That is the thing is, no European nation is able to make an empire because they're all ethnocentric. To be an empire, you have to be ethno flexible. It almost sounds like heteroflexible. You have to be ethno flexible, right? Which means that you can elevate and extol the virtues of, and even the superiority in certain areas of another race, right? The English have a real problem with this. They have a problem with admitting that like East Asians are doing well. The highest IQ ethnic group in the entire planet right now is not East Asians, not any East Asians. It's just American Asians, American East Asians. That's what it is. They are making, I think Harvard did a study in 2019, I think, that if they admitted based purely on academic merit, that it'd be a 43% East Asian institution. I don't know if that includes foreign students. I would have to assume it would, right? Which throws the per capita measurement over. Because if you just went by the American per capita, that means despite only making up 3% of the population, they would make up 43% of the admission to Harvard. Now, if you start doing global stuff, like, global per capita, whatever, then the thing is like, well, obviously the Asians would dominate, right? So that's how it goes. But still, right? They're still dominating. There's no magical blood. However, if you could turn these Asians into proper Americans, then so much better for America. And a lot of people, especially like Aaron McIntyre and stuff, are having a lot of trouble dealing with that. There is a fly orbiting me right now. But there is a principle, I think it's called the something exclusion principle. The exclusion, there's I'm going to call it the species exclusion principle until I remember the name, that if any animal has the same breeding ground, food source, and nesting area as another species, only eventually one of them will displace the other, right? So replacement theory is absolutely true, and it is also inevitable. Anytime you have a change in ethnic makeup, there will be replacement, right? That's just how it's going to be, unfortunately, like just factually. Do I like it? I have no opinion on it. But if you allow, hello, hey Cosmo, I can't hear you. There you go. Yeah. So, by the way,
I was following along.
Oh yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm a big fan of biology for explaining human behavior, because I think humans are mostly biological. And people get really sensitive about the great replacement theories. It's like every time you have a multi-ethnic community, there will be replacement. Now, it's not necessarily replacement completely, right? Like, top 3 types of restaurants. It's burgers, Italian, and Chinese. All right. If you're not one of those 3 things, you're probably on the outskirts of it, and you've been culinarily replaced. That's how it goes. You want engineers? Okay. They're going to be Chinese, German, and English. Those are 3 types of engineers. That's it. So you have to find your niche in America. And strangely enough, the Scotch-Irish is like the mortar between the brick. I found the Scotch-Irish diaspora is they pretty much make up all of the stuff that's in between that no one's particularly good at.
The backcountry, while America was like almost all the settlement was coastal. This is sort of why Black Americans in the South essentially wound up inheriting the culture of the backcountry rather than the culture of the Southern aristocracy.
Yes, correct.
Is that the backcountry Scotch-Irish made up essentially the working poor, one who interfaced with them primarily as non-slave workers on plantations, and 2 as their socioeconomic peers on manumission.
Yeah, they are the white N-words of America, and they get treated that way too. They're the miners of West Virginia who are under this is might have been why I got blocked by Aaron McIntyre. I get blocked by a lot of people, and I'm just saying what I think. Right? I'm not being nasty. I said like America's revealed preference is that it's totally okay to use machine guns and aerial bombs on its own people if they're getting in the way of the mission. And the mission was to mine coal in oh shit, what's the mountain called? Shoot, Blair Mountain? Battle of Blair Mountain. That sounds familiar. I apologize. My recall is bad, but there was a battle of a mountain where U.S. Army soldiers fired on American citizens, and I was like, "Dear Black America, look what we do to white people. You are not special. We will oppress anyone who's in our way of getting stuff. The acquisition of the empire is paramount. We don't care."
But just circling back on another tangent, you mentioned the factionalism, and like, MAGA is one of the first times that a broadly pro-US faction has been in charge in a long time. If I was to look back and name presidents, I'd probably go George Washington, John Adams, but not Quincy, Thomas Jefferson.
I saw someone quoting Quincy Adams for how we should do our foreign policy, and I was like, "Do you understand who John Quincy Adams was?"
Yeah.
Fuck, you dumbass. You're just looking. It's like looking through the Bible to find one scripture that agrees with you. It's like you land on John Quincy Adams.
Martin Van Buren, Andrew Jackson, and even then those early presidents, maybe represented like very regional culture factionalization before. The reconciliation that mostly happened in the 19th century took place. I think arguably Abraham Lincoln, as also divisive as he was broadly America first in a really bizarre way. And then like the last one I can think of is Theodore Roosevelt.
Right. Broadly American first. Yes. Yeah. Theodore Roosevelt has his share of problems. There's a good tweet by Razorfist. I almost want to like have the chutzpah to ask Razorfist to join us.
Sure.
I'll DM. Why not? Shoot my shot. I just sent him a picture of like a wad of 20s. It's like, this is just e-bribing. No, I'd be like, I'll send him a picture of like a GIF from what's that? Oh my gosh, the movie is not McBain. Dang it. MacGruber. Yeah, that's the one. I won't make him that same agreement that we promised. Anyways, yeah. America first actually comes at the expense of Americans very often. That is part of the course. That is the revealed preference. We were absolutely happy to screw over other Americans in the mission. And the thing is, who can hijack the mission? As Ibrahim X. Kendi has done. Who can hijack the mission of America? Who can make up the enemy that hates our freedoms or other bullshit? And yeah, they do hate our freedoms, but that's actually not material. Who cares? Like I can hate Hostess cakes all day. It doesn't actually affect their stock price. Right? It doesn't affect anything. I just don't eat it. So, like who is I have a joke to make, by the way. I have a joke to make that like we all just make a MacGruber offer. There's like 50 people that are willing to. Anyways, really want me on the show. That's my main thing is that we have the American mission. If this mission starts to fail, America will turn on itself, and all of that European style ethnocentrism is going to lead to a mass cannibalization. And it's probably going to lead in no one actually taking over. And whoever does take over, it's going to be not as beautiful and good of an America as it could be. Right? Like I don't want America to be my ethnic makeup. We have a very specialized skills. We're good at bookkeeping and we're good at like owning slaves. And corporate America has sufficed both of those demands enough for us to be adequate service to the empire. We also love seeing empires do really well. We're sewing the Frankenstein and thinking how sick it's going to be without any thought of what it's going to do. We're all for it, whatever it is.
I mean, I love America, and I think I've said before, like, I am by natural spiritual inclination a nomad. I wish my country had less people like me in it, not because I want to squeak out a micro niche or whatever for myself, but because I really love the peoples and places I have lived, and I want to see them thrive.
Yeah, spiritually, like when I was traveling through America, I was 18 years old on a motorcycle, and I just traveled all through America's backcountry for about a month. And I was like, I've never met such nice people. Like, even my own parents didn't treat me as nice as these people did. I was like, damn, these are great. These are so just. I'm a big fan of, and this is the advice I gave to Braxton McCoy and all the people who are trying to defend parts of Americana, is you have to appeal to beauty. Like Donald Trump does the big, beautiful America. It's big and beautiful because it's unassailable. It's on a different, there's no argument. Like, and if you try to argue that America is not beautiful, you're just going to get boos from the crowd. Everyone's going to start throwing vegetables at you, right?
How much of that do you think is like, one, that it's tapping into cliches, like to go against the cliche is always a losing strategy, but also the cliche is kind of real in that, you know, every American, when they hear big, beautiful America, reckons on their particular slice of the country as being God's chosen part of the country.
Yep. Someone from New England is going to think of a nice, windy New England town where you can see the clouds and the horizon and the beautiful sunset. As you're eating boardwalk fries. Someone from the Western is like, everyone fills it in, right? That's the sign of actually a good rhetoric, is that the listener or reader is going to fill in far more than you could ever do, right? There's a certain relationship between a writer and a reader where you have to hand off certain things to the reader to fill in, and that makes it far more convincing. So
as an aside, sorry, I don't want to derail you, but it just hit me like one of the elements that's really successful about America's overtribe, and you know, sort of why European ethno-states work, you know, after a sense in the way that they do, is that there is a conception not of the land belonging to you, but you belong to the land.
Oh yes.
English people are possessed by England; they are the property of England. And you will never make them not English. One of the successful elements of the American overtribe is there is a shared recognition within the overtribe that you belong to the land. You know, you don't belong to New England, but you belong to the land and where you are. And there's a shared recognition that the belongingness to the land is appropriate and right, and that you should regard your land as beautiful as long as you belong to it.
Yes, exactly. Beauty is as much about alignment as it is about subjective appreciation of a thing, right? If a Greek man sees a Greek woman in a crowd of foreigners, she should be the most beautiful woman, or it's almost a betrayal. That's the reason why, like, blacks. Oh, hey, Josh, how's it going, man? That's reason why like black women get really. I mean, it was one of the reasons. There's actually multiple reasons why black women get really mad when black men don't want them, right? I actually, controversially, I think that America has a great place for sub-ethno states as long as they're contributing to the mission. Like, I'm not trying to like bust up Little Italy or Chinatown because I ask people like, oh, multiculturalism doesn't work. I'm like, no, multiculturalism actually objectively does work in America. It depends on which cultures, right? Like, it's like saying multiple ingredients don't work in a stew. It's like, well, okay, if you actually have like literal feces and you try to put it into the stew, that doesn't work. As you were saying before, like the low rent stuff. It took a lot of work for America to render the African slaves into something that was a useful citizen, right? Hey, Josh, it's all good, man. Listen to when you got to listen to it. It's all good. The work... The work that has to be done, unfortunately, is not permissible under current like law, right? I think a lot of stuff went wrong with the U.S. Civil War. I also have a lot of I think that I believe in a 4-step progression to become a citizen, like of citizenship, is you actually have to start as a slave, and that's when you learn to serve others. Now, normally this is just done in childhood, right? If you had a good childhood with a good father, your father's going to turn you into a slave for a while. You just, whatever he says, you got to do. And
I would substitute sort of the Norse word thrall, where you are a non-autonomous dependent, who also contributes to the clan.
Because there's a lot of types of slave. That's a good point. There's a lot of type. I love that. I'm actually going to incorporate that. Your idea is superior to mine. I'm going to just pretend it's mine now, because there's so many types of slave. But the American slavery was actually more of a thraldom, in which you could actually earn your way into freedom if you want to. Like the first legally owned slave in America was Anthony Johnson in 1621. Depends, right? Yeah, depends. 1621. He was the first legal slave in America. He earned his way into freedom and then immediately bought African slaves for himself. So the first legally owned slave is also a slave owner later in his life. The way it's been explained to me is that there's a quota you have to reach, and then whatever work you do after that is up to you, right? So there's a route. I feel like regulated slavery is actually the right way to go, which I would call thraldom. Like if you want to be, you should start out as an American thrall. And typically you should earn this before you've left your parents' house. If you're a nice suburbanite kid of good lineage.
That's the idea. And I think, as cringe as he can be, part of why Vivek Ramaswamy is a big proponent of making American, native born Americans take a citizenship test to earn the franchise. Yeah. Both our education and our citizenship test have become like highly devalued over time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the notion is that you should not start as default enfranchised until you demonstrate a willingness to be a serious contributing freestanding member of the community.
Yeah, Vivek is trying to keep it kosher at the moment right now because he got some blowback, but
yeah,
I think he's right. I think he's right almost 100% of the time, even especially when everyone hates him. Because it's the same shit I've been saying. It's like I would ask the enfranchised Americans right now, is like, how's that working out for you? Because being born here and having heritage has actually given birth to the massive divisive left-wing movements.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I was going to describe like this great white race of America, I would say it's extremely divisive. It's divided, 100% divided. And as Christ and Lincoln said, house divided cannot stand. Like it is a typical conservative American family is a liberal factory. It just makes liberals.
Sure.
Yeah. Like so when you have these foreigners like my father and by extension me in this country, I am seeing the typical American heritage family manufacturing the means of its own destruction as part of the course.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this cannot stand. You guys cannot keep doing this. So we have to start limiting the franchise. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like it's not even just tests, like community service.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I think one of the things, I wouldn't go so far as saying like slavery or thraldom by default in America, but I do think restricting the franchise is actually important. And that's, something that like people will say, oh, you're saying women or you're saying blacks. And like, nah, dog, the franchise extension that I think was actually, the most substantial mistake was repealing the property requirement. And sure, you can argue about historical asymmetry and stuff like that. But one, it acted as a form of voter ID. Because if you are a property owner, you are known, and there's at least a deed somewhere that, in the world, like pre-ID and stuff like that says you live here. The other thing is it demonstrates a baseline at stakeness.
Yes.
I think the franchise should be restricted, not necessarily on the property thing, and then you start getting into the whatever that like Scottish titles thing was scam. It gets weird if you do it that way, but I mean I think you can derive some vectors on which you restrict franchise to a sort of Starship Troopers, like what's the difference between a citizen and a civilian.
Yes.
A test is one potential option or part of a solution. Another part is active service. A lot of legal immigrants get citizenship through U.S. military service.
Yeah.
My brother was in the Army, and he said there were all sorts of guys who were from other countries that were doing it for citizenship.
By the way, which is why I sort of like think the academic agent cliche of like white boys fighting your wars. I was like, have you looked at the makeup of the military? It's not as white as you think it is. Now, maybe for the special forces guys, the guys who are like in major combat, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like you might as well just well, if we're going to be specific, let's be specific. It's probably Appalachian and country western.
Yeah,
always fighting your wars, because it sure as hell is not like some New England boy.
Underutilized rural peoples who essentially have no outlet for their intellect and talent because of the poor socioeconomic opportunities in their area. Those make up your special forces. They're your under leveraged talent. I think so you can have tests, you can have labors. I think another option is in order to be enfranchised, you must have a sponsor.
That's something I thought about this for England too. Is like for me, like in England, you don't want to get rid of all the so everyone's hot to trot. I hate this bullshit where everyone's hot to trot and like, let's get rid of all the immigrants. It's like, okay, all of them? Because first off, that'd be really funny to me, because it's like, yeah, by all means, get rid of like anybody who can't trace 500 years of lineage. It's like, you're gonna get rid of a lot of people that like you, who are on your side. Yeah. Like seeing Academic Agent get deported would be fucking YouTube gold. But if you could find people who sponsor, like if you could find 10 families and they exclusively can only sponsor one person, and it would be you, like 10 different families all exclusively want to sponsor you. It's like, yeah, by all means, you have the franchise. You've made good connections in your country. Being sponsored does not mean just someone saying that you're good. It's like, if you do a crime, not only do you get deported, but they get to serve your time or something like that, right? Like it's they have to have some element of skin in the game. Well, that used to be, I'm not going to say that. Used to be
I mean, when you invited an outsider into your clan, you were staking your reputation on them. I think another criterion for disenfranchisement is if you or a business that you own is taking government money during that period, and probably for a cool off period, you can't vote.
Yes, correct.
And it's essentially because like your judgment is tainted. Either because you're a dependent, or because you are indulging in subsidy, and if you are indulging in subsidy, you cannot make clear-eyed decision on the purse.
Here's another controversial opinion. I love controversial opinions, by the way, and I don't think soldiery, like veterancy service, should stand out, because I don't want America to be a place that's ruled by veterans. For a couple of reasons. First off, warrior cultures don't go very well. I think other types of service would be good. Also, veterans. You guys are not exactly the smartest like fucking people in the world. I'm sorry. Like, you're super brave. You're super great. But as long as there's like guys like Vindman out there who are willing to absolutely turn turncoat, or just because like Vladimir Putin put some like nice a piece of ass in front of you, there's a certain amount of intellectual capacity, which is why the land requirement is nice, because back in the day, you actually had to be pretty intelligent to organize land and stay solvent, right? Whereas like military service is everything is provided to you, especially modern military service, right? Everything's provided. Our military caters to the lowest IQs that they can possibly get for the jobs they want. Your health is provided for, your housing is provided for. You don't have to make, if you're enlisted, you don't have to make any damn decisions about your own life at all. I would be more okay with like, if you were an officer, then you're a citizen. And this is a rant I had for earlier, but I didn't have it now, is the yesterday's soldier concept that I have, is that America does not get its power from its veterans. America gets its power from technology and logistics and culture. So like our soldiers are actually there just to guard the stuff that we took. But like, who's the Secretary of Treasury? Besant? Yeah. He's the one who worked he is our WMD. Like the ability to crash a currency is such, he is so much more valuable.
Besant is one of the people in government that's like, they have infinite credit with me. Like, bro, this guy destroyed the pound. Like, he was the guy who put the idea in front of George Soros.
So cool.
Like, if there's a guy I trust with monetary policy, it's this guy.
It's the most American stuff ever, that you just grab like the lieutenant of the Dark Lord and just put him and just give him a job. Like we will
Yeah.
absolutely just take anybody. That's why I feel like loyalty.
I
is
mean,
hard to-
versus
yeah.
the opposite is like Mark Carney in Canada, who's now their PM, and it's like this guy's the quintessential nowhere man. He has no loyalty whatsoever. He hasn't lived in Canada in ages. You know, he just stepped down from running the Bank of England, which cooed a prime minister. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's America is amazing because we can get the great talent because we are on the top. Besant or a version of him could easily be destroying us in 50 years. But America just is a nation founded on riding the tiger. So we just ride that tiger, see how it goes. What is an American, right? Like what's the most valuable thing? Some of our businesses are more competent than other countries' militaries. Like I'm not even joking. I was listening to Fat Electrician. Do you listen to Fat Electrician? Give us some. Skip his videos about veterans if you want. Although there is like an old, like a company that was made in World War II that was just old dudes, and they were amazing. It was actually Hacksaw Ridge. Was those guys? They were known. They scared the shit out of the Japanese. The Japanese were terrified of them because these old dudes were just. They spared no quarter, and they were very devious, and they had no behavioral problems at all. They were just there to get the job done, and they just do it. Anyways, Fat Electrician has videos on like Spirit Halloween, and the logistics required to run Spirit Halloween are amazing.
Oh, I have seen that one. Yes.
Okay, yeah, like that is on par with nations. I'm talking about like third world, like Spirit Halloween is on par with like third world nations militaries in terms of logistics.
Yep.
And then you look at us and then we talk, what is our top tier logistics? It's Amazon.com. And you finally find out that one of the strengths of the American empire is that we can take private businesses and incorporate them into our military infrastructure.
You know about Amazon military, by the way, right?
I don't know
they
anything
may not
about
be
it.
called this anymore, but they're a
yeah.
subsidiary of Amazon because Amazon runs databases and other cyber infrastructure for some of the government. And there are facilities where there's a big chain link fence and there's the National Guard outside, and then you step inside and it's guys in blue flak jackets with the Amazon smile across the chest. This is Amazon military.
I want that on
the data infrastructure and the cybersecurity.
Oh, somebody was it the B-2 bombers that went over and blew up the Fort Al nuclear facility in Iran? There's an Amazon logo on the refueling planes. That'd be amazing. Yeah, America's the most craziest place ever.
There's a reason, by the way, I think that it's actually natural for Americans to be distrustful of military. And like there's a great literary convergence here between William Gibson's pattern recognition trilogy and Shibumi, whose author I forget the name of. Shibumi is essentially about the decline of warrior cultures and their replacement by merchant-run cultures, and the moral degradation that goes along with this, and the ability of culture to self-propagate. It particularly depicts America as like the main culprit in merchant-based cultural erosion. Now, this history is well founded, as it turns out. During the Revolutionary War, America ostracized its three most talented military commanders, either completely sidelined them, shoved them off of command, kicked them out of the military, or in one case caused them to defect. I don't remember the third one, but the two big ones, Charles Lee was forced into retirement. Massively successful skirmishing and guerrilla warfare commander, and massively successful. Arguably our single greatest military mind during the Revolutionary War was Benedict Arnold, who we treated so badly that he went on to become the only talented military mind on the British side. And part of that is America is a mercantile culture, and
we're not a martial culture. I feel like we pay
we win a lot of fights, but we don't necessarily know how to treat our warriors. And if you look at like the come down into like the many generations long failure of the VA, America still does not know how to treat its warriors, and partially it's because it doesn't value them at a cultural level.
That's the thesis statement of the video that the script I'm writing right now called Yesterday's Soldier, is that America literally doesn't value its veterans because its veterans are not the source of our power. They're just there as a tool, temporary, and they're not there to extend the reach or strengthen the grip of the empire at all. They're more or less just a stopgap. They're just
and on a parallel, there are veterans who are absolute bullshit artists who go through military service and in order to fulfill their function have to have a delusional level of confidence instilled in them. And for some of them, like you are the under leveraged capital of Appalachia or whatever, that is going on to fulfill your genius level potential in a narrow domain. Or for many of you that we have to instill delusional confidence in, you're just some fucking dumbass who got in here because you had no other options, and you come out into civilian service thinking you're the shit, and you're just shit. Like, I've known a lot of veterans in this category who are just dog shit people who think they're, the best, like God's gift to humanity.
No, absolutely. And the thing is, we gas them up so they're willing to go and do what's necessary at the time.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
But they're not.
They're gassed up mids.
Yeah. Yeah. America doesn't value its veterans, and that's just the way America is. Okay. Like we pay them lip service so we can get some more later because we're not a draft military. At the moment, nor will we probably ever be. What we'll probably be is a military of mercenaries because it's like either citizenship or the GI Bill is your main reason to join. I absolutely triggered the hell out of some like mid-Atlantic Karen because I mentioned this, and like some college kid like agreed with me. Is like most of the time the reason they're joining is because of financial benefits of it. Right? They're not joining because they love America necessarily, and I speak this as a guy who enlisted because I love America and I wanted to fight against terrorists. And I was throwing away my college career and all of my potential to do it. And they refused me. And they were like, "Yeah, you're not going to be happy with this." I was like, "We don't think this is good." But they was like, they had a reason to throw me out. And then they asked me if I wanted to be an officer instead. I was like, "Okay, they don't want me to be all right, yeah, so I get it." Anyways, it was either
this is like the sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the officers are the ones they actually value. The United States does not care because it doesn't extend the reach or grip of the empire. Like what extends the reach or grip of the
empire?
Not
after 1948, yeah.
Yeah, well, and even exactly. Like the if we could invade just nations just because, then the veterans would be really, really valuable. But right now they're just there to guard the shit. What is the shit? The shit is the stuff that the merchants and the culturalists and the politicians have secured, right? It doesn't take that much to topple most nations. Now, will there ever be a time where veterans are absolutely crucial for America's survival? Yes, maybe, but probably not, because economics is a WMD. Like as I said, Besant is like an ICBM. Except you can actually use him.
Yeah.
Like if he destroyed the Chinese currency, I would have a statue made of him and put him in my garden right now.
Yeah.
Like this is an American hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's an underwritten history, or like, I'm loosely aligned with the perspective that the 20th century was the most disastrous century in human history. And this includes, the 13th century, and name a disaster. I think the 20th century was, in the long run, for human immiseration, worse, both for overt effects like democide and for, covert effects like the sins of the early 20th century are fairly well documented. such as the emergence of government pensions, breaking down intergenerational families, the innovation of pure fiat currency, and cartelized central banking. The like full on state level implementation of communism and other sub-socialist sort of Gnostic totalizing worldviews, et cetera, et cetera. The late 20th century is far less well documented in terms of the dire effects of its sins. One of which is destabilization emerging as, the dominant international relations tool. And then as sort of a subsidiary to that, co-emergent with it almost, is the outlawing by the UN of the legitimacy of military arms as a recognizable basis for conquest. What died with that is actually just war theory. War theory in a Christian sense actually died with the UN outlawing war as legitimate for seizing some territory. Yeah. And you get a lot of weird pernicious effects of this showing up, where instead of being flash in the pan conflicts that are settled, like you and your brother boxing it out in the front yard, you have resentment simmering into nonstop bush wars that are below the threshold of mid-level violence for eternity, where people are stuck bleeding and hemorrhaging. Like the 20th century has so many hyper novel cultural innovations, and the hyper novel innovations of the second half of the 20th century are really underdocumented in terms of their insidious effects. I think one of which is essentially the outlawing of warfare. And not that, I'm like, yeah, war good. I'm very much the opposite, but like festering infinite resentment is far worse, actually, it turns out, than, brief localized struggles.
I would argue, so Lollygaggins here, I would argue that technology has allowed the merchant class to over hundreds of years. This is a trend that's been going for hundreds of years. Sideline the warrior class. The merchant class has been gaining ground on the warrior class, and I think the warrior class may be done, because now it's not just that they die, is that their deaths are now live streamed to the humiliation of it's humiliation is the death of the warrior class. Like
there's a shorthand analog. There's a shorthand analog of the same. AI grants wealth access to talent and forbids talent access to wealth.
Yeah. Okay.
Technology has been doing the same thing to the warrior class for centuries.
Yeah. Like it's going to come down to are our AI algorithms a few microseconds faster than the enemies? And that's going to make the difference of the Pareto distribution of warfare. Weirdly enough, the abstracting of warfare into a technological realm has now introduced the Pareto distribution to it. You couldn't have one soldier fight 1,000 men before, but now you can, if he's behind a laptop writing the algorithms, and he's a little bit better than everybody else at it. I'm not. So the thing is, I'm resigned to whatever the fate of the world is what it is. But the world is going into places that are going to be interesting and terrifying, I think.
Yeah.
It also might just be so horrifying that no one ever wants to take part in it again. I don't know.
Yeah. I think honestly, the global bug man living in the pod, this is eliding several steps together. I'm not directly building on that sentiment, but I think we both understand where this is going, is that the globo homo bug man is inevitable as long as we remain on one planet.
It's inevitable. Yeah. Sorry.
I don't want to say you need frontiers, because that's, a bit of a trite saying in its own right, but you need out of this dynamic, and you need the ability to leave this dynamic post haste. You need an internal separation and sorting out of this technological Pareto distribution. Otherwise it's going to go forever.
Yeah. And that's why the hope for America is that small landowners, the people, oddly enough, is the tech right. By the way, anyone who wants to fight the tech right, is pretty much asking, do you want to fight the actual might that drives America? As I said, like logistics, military, everything. Nothing matters. It's kind of sad.
You don't want to fight the tech right. You want to teach them Bushido.
Yes, I said this exact same damn thing to Braxton McCoy. I'm sorry, Braxton. I'm sorry to bring up your name, man, but I was telling him that what you have to do is not fight the Indian techno people, is like invite them out to the Wild West onto that land and bring them on like a camping trip for a week. Like they all want to go on some mushroom trip with some hippie. Like let them go with the cowboy and like learn the cowboy life. Like you have to. This is the Christian.
Yeah, don't do ayahuasca or do Burning Man. Spend like a month moving a head of beef.
Yeah, fuck. Like honestly, they would find the beauty in it. But like if you, this is the problem.
Oh, yeah.
This is why they're yesterday's soldiers. This is why they are yesterday, and they will continue to be yesterday's soldiers if they keep doing this. Is that you can't just find an enemy and defeat them. You have to convert your enemies to your thinking, which is
closing another loop. It's or not closing, but returning to another loop. It's a creation of the Golden Bridge.
Yes. This idea that we can exterminate our enemies is wrong. You have to it's about punishment and then giving them an avenue for redemption.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's it.
You have to do the same thing to the woke too. Like every blue-haired feminist needs a chud. Like they need a big sexy chud.
Yeah. Like
you have to give them a way back. If you're not in the domain of looking for ways back, you're in the domain of genocide and ethnic cleansing, which is like you're exploring last resort territory when there's loads of sexy chuds. Yeah, that you could be offering.
The billions must die thing, right? Like I'm a big fan of just settle, have a good life, enjoy your marriage. Like individual solutions will eventually aggregate into a societal change. I wish people just didn't. I wish anyone under the IQ of 130 should probably just never use the word society, because like, who the fuck are you? Why are you talking about that? Like, you can't affect any change there. Like, you're not going to change anything. You're not going to be the guy who writes the new article that changes the way we think. You should just find some nice girl who looks okay and then make her happy. And then she's going to vote the way you want to vote. We can't take away women's franchise in terms of voting. That's not popular. That's like on par with the libertarians and the communists in terms of ways.
I mean, nor should we. And it's been well observed that like happy marriages essentially annul the lonely Catwoman problem, anyways.
And the thing is, like, men didn't do necessarily. I was on a Spaces with Stefan Molyneux. And he mentioned,
I tuned in for the end of that. Yeah. I heard most of your conversation with him.
Yeah, and he's like made a good point. It's like, yeah, men created World War I. Like, we will try to solve the problem no matter what it takes, and we'll try to save face. That's not necessarily the best way to run a civilization, because it will be. I think either one gender on their own is going to be the death of civilization, and you have to make the compromises necessary to make yourself palatable to the other.
That's the ugly thing. That's the ugly thing about our recourse to the analogy of the Golden Bridge, is we're essentially a bunch of men like trying to cargo cult female solutions. Yeah. Like, okay, I've watched a lot of women. How do they do this?
And I have I wish I had more time, but I have a grand unified theory of women that it's evolutionary psychology in nature. And it's not hard to get along with women. You just have to understand how to maneuver with them. They're not complicated creatures. Like, I got into a lot of hot water with, I forget who it was. I pissed off a lot of people just by expressing my interest. So like, Aaron McIntyre and Indian Bronson is like, sorry guys, I just have an opinion. Deal with it. My opinion is that marketers understand women way better than anybody else. And it's not even close. Like if you're a PhD in psychology and you specialize in understanding women, you've got nothing on a guy who's a marketing regular who's worked there for 5 years on women.
Yeah, it's a skin in the game difference. You live by your words sounding nice. This guy lives by women buying shit. So he's got a lot more incentive to get it right.
Correct. And they're not complicated creatures. Women want to give.
Nor are men, by the way.
No, not at all. Yeah, exactly. Life is complicated, and the only reason men might be complicated once in a while is because they will try to match life. Like men will try to match the circumstance that they're in. If there were no complicated problems, there'd be no complicated men. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're only going to get You're only going to get a. Was it Adam Turing? You're only going to get a Turing.
Alan Turing.
Alan Turing. Sorry, you're only going to get an Alan Turing if there's an Enigma machine. Otherwise, he's just in his garden chilling, trying to figure out the best way to, like, I don't know, cook a burger or something. I don't know what people do.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think your Alan Turing looks a lot more like your Ludwig Wittgenstein, leaving some really exciting proofs of interest to basically just academics and nobody else.
Yeah.
You give a weird introverted male homosexual a serious intellectual challenge and he rises to it. Right. Otherwise he's going to stay a weird introverted male homosexual. And I mean, you can take the weird introverted and homosexual out of this, and it honestly applies to all men. This is just like a narrowly specific class where it happens to be more true in general.
And what it's supposed to be is that men have to rise to the occasion of what their wife wants. Like it's the rising to the occasion of the woman, right? And that's how it goes, and it makes you more complete. Anyways, we are ultra overtime. I have to go to the bathroom, and I think it's probably a good time for stopping. I think we've diverted pretty well from the original discussion. I had a lot of fun discussing it. There's
a quote which
go on.
I can never get it right, but it opens. It's in the start of Eric Voegelin's autobiographical reflections, and I think it's an Augustine quote, but it's a particular translation. I'm paraphrasing here. In the study of creature, let not the mind exercise a vain and perishing curiosity, but ascend to that which is highest and everlasting. You can go from the crash outs of the 12-day war with Iran to, the eternal.
Right. The general solution, as the mathematicians would say. Yeah. There's something divine about that. It's like finding the commonalities, and really what it's about integrity. It's the intersection of a personal integrity, having an audience, having your livelihood in that audience. I don't trust a lot of people that aren't there's two people I don't trust: those who aren't independently wealthy and those who aren't independently attractive. Like if you can't get money or sex, then you're going to be owned by somebody else.
Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of like a crass way of putting it, but like, you want a physically attractive, or at least like a sexually successful, independently wealthy person to be your commentator, and everyone else should be looked upon as like with an extra layer of scrutiny. The problem is that
this is what separates your Vince Dow's and your Elon Musk's, like, as wildly divergent as their fuck you money is.
Yeah.
From your James O'Keefe blind dates. You know what I mean?
I mean, like the James O'Keefe blind dates is in they need. Yeah, that's right. They have a certain sexual need they're unable to fulfill, so they just divulge everything. Yeah.
They dump everything because they don't have assurance of the capacity within themselves, and they're desperately seeking validation externally, so they'll dump state secrets.
Yeah, men by the way, men who can get sex versus men who cannot are like two different species. There's there's almost no similar. That simple change changes almost everything about the guy. And the guys who can get sex are considered far more mentally healthy.
Yeah.
It's almost like
there's also a scale transform in monks who are essentially able to manufacture like a spiritual can get it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That goes beyond the needs of the flesh.
Well, it's almost like the not even can get it. It's more like don't need it. Like you're dependent.
Yeah, you don't need it because you can get it, or you don't need it because you don't need it.
That's true. Let's see. Yeah. Monk Riz. It must be studied. Are there any monks still out there? Making Frangelico out there somewhere?
I know a few.
All right, I'd be a monk. I'd go check out monks, see what they're up to. I
That
feel
was
like if you're, yeah.
that was number 3, by the way, when they make you do that that high school, like, career aptitude test. My number 1 was priest, my number 2 was rabbi, my number 3 was monk.
Just trying to figure out like which faction you're in. So your faction alignment. Listen, all things being equal, rabbi is probably not bad, but boy, do you have to keep up appearances. Yeah, man. What did come out of the conversation? What do you want to talk about more? I probably won't get into the online drama of me and I posted everything that me and Indian Bronson had. Like, since he blocked me, I just posted the DMs. Like, you just see him.
Sure.
I'm just making points. And he's like, this conversation is not productive. And then he blocked me. I was like, what the fuck are you talking to me about? I'm just saying a bunch of shit that's true. It's like, listen, as soon as Israel starts taking American hostages, then I'll give a shit. Anyways, yeah, it's all Israel. This fixation, the hiding the criticism of Iran behind criticism of Israel is like, I know what you're doing. I'm not like 90 IQ. It's like you're changing the subject to try and make a false equivalency. It's like as soon as we want to bomb Israel, I'm all for it. I don't give a shit. As soon as they do something worth bombing, but you know, funding terrorists who apparently are actually on U.S. soil now that we're finding. As soon as Israel wants to like, pay people that shoot our boats, then fine. I think it's the USS Liberty. I was like, that seemed like a mistake to me. Looking into it a little bit, appears that Israel is more or less our dog. I don't care, dude. If Nazi Germany was alive today and doing what we asked them to do, I wouldn't care. I'm not here to morally evaluate every single vassal of the American Empire.
Right.
So
I tend to be much more like Trump Buddha about it. Like, this doesn't matter. Nothing matters.
Yeah. No, I love the Trump Sue. I was like,
yeah,
maybe I did it. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I've already done it. Nobody knows. That's the part that like cinches it up. Is like, nobody knows. Not even he knows. Yeah. Anyways, he's the best president. He's very funny, at least. What do you think? Nobel Peace Prize for Trump? You think it's
God, I hope so. I mean,
it would just be
Nobel Peace Prize just for making you smile, just for making, a couple 100 million people smile. The Beatles couldn't do it. Trump could.
Listen, wasn't the Secretary of NATO called him daddy earlier? Listen, I think he's a shoo-in. Daddy Trump. Oh my God. That's too funny. If other foreign nations are referring to your president in BDSM terms, I think we've got a good global power going. I think. Give him a leather hat. Yes, that's the word. That's what men are speaking about today. And thank you guys all for watching. And
thanks all.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. You have a good one. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See if the end streamings.